difficult. Now, I will say, as far as the judges go, as I understand it, I'm not a lawyer, so please, look up what I have to say. There has not been an argument inside of conservative jurisprudence over national temporary restraining orders. There has been a lot of argument over district court judges using nationwide injunctions, which the conservative jurisprudence side argues nationwide injunctions really are not effective because that district court only controls that particular district. So there's all of that together, which I will end with the Mortal Republic, which is it's the norms being violated that end up downing republics. Because once all you have to rely off over the written rules and know sort of thou hast no shame kind of thing, it just doesn't. Republics become messy. They become hard to function. The institutions in them don't function well. So I don't think that's all the Republicans' fault, but I, as a Republican, wanted to let people know that at least as far as one moderate Republican goes, that is a big part of the reason that we face what we have faced. I don't personally think there's anything wrong with saying no in governance. Sometimes you have a bad idea. But there is something I think very important to know, that when people get frustrated over government not working and they then track to something more centralized with a quote stronger figure, that can definitely be an outgrowth of not governing and saying no. So I think those, at least from my side of the particular aisle, those are the things I would pick, and I would then repeat at the very end Watts's conclusion in the Mortal Republic, which is the Republic didn't just fail because of lack of norms, it failed because good people did nothing. Because Roman politics pushed good people out and bad people in. So I'll leave it there.
Just remember the appellate courts only have jurisdiction over their circuits as well. So
correct, as I understand.
So if I am a representative of a class, let's say a union that represents civil service protected employees, and we have a contract, and the government decides to violate, at least from my perspective, that contract and lay off all my people, and I want to challenge that. And if the argument is that I can't go to a federal district court judge to challenge it because, well, how can one judge
Chicago
in one district
should not be considered part of the Midwest?
Make a ruling or even a temporary injunction in order to hear the argument because he doesn't have jurisdiction over the entire country? Then how do I adjudicate this?
I am, to be frank, Gary, the wrong person to ask that question. There's somebody, I think, on stage or in the audience who has far more experience with the judiciary branch than I do. My point was only to note that was an argument in conservative jurisprudence, not to argue that it was valid over a more liberal jurisprudential point, only that the argument existed. I can't tell you how you would do one or the other. I just, unfortunately, I'm not that kind of knowledgeable on the subject.
I don't know that this is a conservative jurisprudence.
This isn't conservative.
Excuse me, please don't interrupt. I don't know that this is a conservative jurisprudence argument. I think that it just affects conservatives today, and as Scott pointed out in the past, it's affected Democrats. So I'm not so certain that that's accurate. Okay, Hermes, you're up.
That's fair.
Hermes.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. The federal judges the Fifth Circuit courts, the whole system, right, is set up to where you can appeal. And it's set up that way. If you don't like the decision of the first guy, then you appeal and you get another opinion, right? And this may go all the way up to the circuit court on the Supreme Court on everything. But I will land with this. As you can see my PTR, that's President Bush, right? And he's standing next to his Mexican lawn care guy. Thank you.
So, thank you for that, Hermes, and we'll go to Brian.
Thanks, Gary. I'm not in the legal field, but from what I've been reading, the judge has not overstepped his bounds. The judge is doing his job. I believe that the Trump administration deliberately ignored the judge's order. Now, I've been reading stories where, and we don't know, and we'll never know because the plane's already gone, but there's people that were on that plane that supposedly were not gang members. One in particular was a guy who's married and was actually a barber in Texas that got pulled over, and they turned him over to ICE because of tattoos, which, they described him, and they didn't even seem like they could be gang tattoos. They were goofy things. And there was also I forgot what position, but there's a person in the Venezuelan government that said none of those people were in the gangs. I mean, you take that for what it's worth. But there's also some other reports. I mean, there could be innocent people that are on those planes that are now in a black hole and they never return, because they don't even let the media down there or anything. So the thing is, the right thing to do would be not to let those planes leave, to be sure that the people on those planes were what they were supposed to be. And I have no problem evicting gang members out of our country, but we have laws and the right things to do it. Courts all the time release criminals onto the streets over violations of the prosecution, for breaking laws and of the courts. And I think that if we're going to I can't get a word. If you're going to kick people out of the country, at least do it according to the law and do it the right way. I'm not, like I said, I don't, if they're gang members, violent gang members, we certainly don't want them in the country, but we do have to respect the rule of law. And according to the Constitution, the judicial branch is just as equal as the executive branch. And Trump is just doing what Trump always does. He, when he don't get his way, he just goes on blast and talks out his butt. But that's where I'm at with it. Thanks for letting me talk.
I think we have to look at this as well, and thank you for that, Brian, as if we're playing a chess game, in that we have to look multiple steps, moves ahead, right? So the president started on this with a tweet about a week ago, blasting the judge. And that's when he first suggested that a district court judge shouldn't have the authority to make a decision such as this. And it caused for, you want to talk the term unprecedented, you got the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court publicly saying, Mr. President, you're wrong. We have a system, and this is how the system works. This is when they called for the impeachment of the judge. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said, wait a minute, this is not an appropriate response to your objection to a temporary restraining order. Now we have the president, as I read at the top, saying, Mr. Chief Justice, I want you to rule that these lower courts don't have jurisdiction. I think the Chief Justice, and I think he's probably speaking for the entire bench. There might be one or two exceptions, but he's certainly speaking for the majority of the bench, probably the entire bench, has already went on the record extrajudicially by the judge because it was in the public forum, not from the bench, but still, he went on the record as saying, this argument is not going to fly. What does the president do? He doubles down and makes the argument again, and he publicly addresses the Chief Justice. Now, this is a president who has, in his first term, appointed the best people, the greatest people into positions until those people have defied him or offered an opinion contrary to his, and then he removes them because they're horrible, horrible people. He goes the other way as well, right? Little Marco is now the Secretary of State. Who would have thunk? But one could, as we look, X number of moves ahead while playing this chess game, reasonably presume that there's a good chance that if, in fact, the government attorneys stand before the Supreme Court and argue that the lower courts don't have jurisdiction in any matter.
Zach, I'm on stage.
That,
I think I'm about to get called next. I'm going to read to them what's on Doge on X.
We already know that there's a good chance, a very good chance,
this
the
is
court
Gary
is not going
Baumgarten's
to rule
room.
in his favor.
There's a lot of people in there right now.
And then what? Why is he playing this game? Why would he do this? He's not going to remove the Chief Justice from the Supreme Court. That's an appointment for life. So what's he going to do then? And he's got to know that. I'm just curious as to what the end game here is, unless it's a totally populist game, that it's all form and no substance. He knows that he's wrong. He knows he can go nowhere with this, but boy, does it play to his base. That's the only conclusion that I could reach. Maybe some of you have a different conclusion to the question that I'm raising. We'll now go to, and thank you for that, Brian Monsef.
Jesus.
Hey, Gary. The issue that we have here, the way I see it, is not whether the federal judges have gone too far. Federal judges are doing their job. It just happens that when, the president thinks that his, in an unfavorable position in front of a judge, he is going to throw a fit and say, well, I've been mistreated when it was personal to him, or right now, that judge is just a lunatic, leftist lunatic that's doing this. And, there's nothing better than what Chief Roberts said in the subject. This is not how we do things. The way this has been presented to, the MAGA crowd is that, well, don't you want gangsters out of the country? The Democratic Party, with their lunatic judges, want criminals and gangsters to roam our streets and to live amongst you. That's not true. No one wants Tren de Aragua gangs or MS-13 gangs roaming our street. But the fact is, they were already within the borders of the United States of America. When you are inside the United States of America, from what I know, and I'm no law scholar, actually I'm looking forward to hear what Mr. Crone has to say, later on. If you are within the borders, you are entitled to due process, and this is what the president thinks that his authority from the executive branch is better to protect the country, or he has ultimate authority that's bigger than the judiciary, thus eliminating that whole thing that makes this country great, about the separation of powers, about checks and balances, about there is where we did all these things so that we don't end up with, kings and dictators making decisions. This reminds me of the time when we hear about, where Putin found someone criticizing him or whatever, but they're gonna find all kind of stuff, and they will show you on TV that they did have the due process. Even Putin made an effort into making his opponent or whatever go through, Banana Republic courts and have, judges that are too afraid to rule anything that's not favorable to Putin's decision. But he would send his, opponents to Siberia to die or whatever. And this is all done under the guise of I'm respecting the law. This guy doesn't even go under the guise that I'm respecting the law. He wants the laws to change. He wants to play a different game, and I'm baffled at all the people that are just kind of giving him a break about them, because they all say, well, he's doing what's best for the country. But the law is above everyone. The law is above the president. It's above me, and due process should be done. Again, nobody wants gangsters to be roaming against us. Amongst us, but I would like a judge to be involved in deciding whether someone needs to be sent back to their country or not. The way they did this is they contracted with Bukele, the Salvadorian president, who is renowned as being one of the...
You make the case there. So the intelligence design is just kicking the can down the road further, because you're essentially saying we live in some kind of simulation in some way that has.
These people are going to be treated is not just subhumane, but it's unbelievable stuff. Now, what's scary about this is that you got the ICE director going on Fox News and saying, "I don't care what the judges say." That's a clear. I don't know if there is a clearer statement that this is a clear disregard of the law, and that should raise a red flag to even the most conservative of conservatives that say, stop the buck. We are the party of law and order. We do like presidents to be tough or whatever on crime and all that, but he needs to follow the law. There is a guy that's been sent to this prison that was a Venezuelan soccer player. I put the link to the story in the chat on Messenger. He had a tattoo of Real Madrid, a soccer team from Spain. Happens to be my favorite soccer team, but his tattoo was a soccer team tattoo. How do we know that amongst all these people there is not innocent people that are not members of Tren de Aragua or MS-13? You know how we would know? If these people had due process and they had gone through, a fair, an American way to judge if someone is a criminal or not. The alien acts that they acted on meant that if they were exporting Venezuelan citizens, one gets to think, well, we must be at war with Venezuela, because that's what the act says. We are not at war in Venezuela. That's all I have to say. That no one wants gangs to be roaming amongst us. There is a proper way to do it, and this is a grave disregard of the law, and a grave attempt at even reaching to the Supreme Court to change laws concerning federal judges. Again, I'll wait for Mr. Crone to give his opinion. Thanks for the time, Gary.
Thanks, Monsef. On the instant case to which you refer, which is the obviously the overriding case, but they're talking in generalities that the courts don't have the right to make these decisions to countermand what the president, decrees from the Oval Office. But this is obviously the major case. So you've got the administration saying, and the president used these terms, these are very bad people, very, very bad people. They're murderers, they're this, they're that. Okay, that's the government's position. Do we take the government at its word? Then the other side is saying, well, wait a minute, as you point out, there are people who are not gang members who are being deported to this prison.
There are those who believe that we are in real time
if he were the attorney,
constitutional order.
No,
do you believe that we are in a constitutional crisis right now?
The judge, you give the judge an opportunity
is at risk.
to hear the argument. The reason you maintain the status quo is to avoid any potential harm.
We did put
Not to say that Monsef is right and the government is wrong, but to say, I have not had the opportunity to hear this case. If there's a chance that Monsef is right, we better hold those planes to ensure that we are not inadvertently sending to a hellhole people who do not deserve to be sent to a hellhole. Maybe they are not all gang members.
I gotta go, so
Now, if after the hearing it turns out the government prevails, the judge can lift that injunction and say, I order that.
What Florida Man was expressing was that in that situation, with all the accolades that I received, all of the affirmations and positivity, that I should just substitute my actual feelings on position on this race issue so that I can enjoy the benefits of their moral race. What's this?
I have no idea.
Thing before I go down, Gary, for a president to visit the Justice Department and give that speech while Pam Bondi is sitting right next to him, while talking to loyal and police, this is where, this should raise red flags. The most conservative people, yes, they love what, that Trump is strong and all that. But Trump crossing the line should be something that should be, mentioned by, liberals, conservatives, whatever, because this is crossing the line. He's testing the waters, and that's dangerous. Thanks, Gary.
I don't have the exact quote in front of us, but we have the Attorney General of the United States attacking a federal judge publicly on national television and basically claiming that he's, I don't know the words that she used, so I don't want to misquote her, but I never heard in my lifetime an Attorney General make such a statement, and it's at the very least called for, in my opinion. Others may say it's about time that the Attorney General said what was true, that these are judges who are exceeding their authority and they think that they are the executive branch and they're not. And thank God we finally have an Attorney General who's got the cojones to do that. All right, fine. But I've never heard it before, and I find it a little off-putting as well, Monsef. Les?
I agree with most of what you and Monsef was saying, so I won't repeat it. Now, the Supreme Court, to how this should go, the Supreme Court is too busy to hear all cases. And that's why they use a district court as a filter. And if they think this was important enough, or they disagree with the decision, they can hear it. Someone said that judges. Well, I would mention that.
On their obligations. It's just insane. So I don't think there's any point in trying to make an argument that Brad owes anyone money, because they're not going to hold him accountable. For fuck's sake, Sig sat up there, said, yeah, Diogenes was in the military, I verified that, Brad owes him the money, but it's not really an issue.
There's no point in bringing up the money. That is such a stupid thing to even talk about. What a waste of time. But
Edmund, I missed you today. I hope I was going to have an opportunity to get back, have some back and forth with you. And now you enter my room and you say some stupid shit like that.
No, I mean, if you bet with somebody on Clownhouse and you think you're gonna get paid, it's total waste of time.
I was about to remove him, but I couldn't remove him because he started talking. He was hypnotizing me. I wanted to hear what he was going to say.
Yeah, but I've thoroughly enjoyed. I think you're very funny, and I have thoroughly enjoyed your back and forth. And I agree with you that I think anybody who makes death threats on this app or any type of extreme vulgarity, something they got a screw loose in their head. And I don't typically want to talk to those types of people. I would rather read a book.
Okay, whatever.
Well, you know what, Edmund? Go read a fucking book.
Show photographs of the tattoos as if that's going to determine definitively that a person is a gang member, or show their rap sheet, show that they were in prison in Venezuela before they came to the United States, and then let the judge decide whether this is correct, and then abide by the judge's decision until it's appealed, and then when the appellate process is completed, abide by that decision as well. I don't understand why this is even something that is questioned, but it is being questioned. I don't understand it. Hopefully somebody who is in support of what the president is doing is on the stage and will help explain it to me and people like me who just don't get it.
This is wisdom. I can help do that, Gary.
Well, we'll get to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The other thing is that this.
I can help you, Gary.
Basically his attitude is, I'm going to keep on pushing until I get pushed back, and that's what the courts are doing here. Yeah, finally, edge cases make bad laws, and for everyone that's a Venezuelan drug lord or whatever they are, gang member, there are probably 1,000 guys that are just making a living, mowing your lawn. And so I hate the idea of things being prejudiced that way, but he has a view of what should happen, and so he's picking the most obvious case up front.
Yeah, his muddle-headed to say I'm in favor of this kind of.
By the way, Les, hasn't been mentioned today. I think it has in the past, but
No matter how
all
ridiculous
these
in government,
individuals are already in custody.
and kindness,
So they're not a clear and present danger to you and me because they're incarcerated. So why not adjudicate it and then determine? Nobody's saying that they shouldn't even be sent out of the country necessarily. The issue is, at least in this instant case, should they be sent without due process by using the Enemy Aliens Act to this prison in El Salvador? So they're a big danger to us. We got to send them out. Okay. Let's just say you're correct that they are all a big danger to us and they need to be deported from the country. Take a pause. They're in custody. So long as they are in federal custody, they're not a danger to Lesser Gary. So why not adjudicate it first? Again, I don't understand the argument. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't understand the position. Except the only conclusion that I can reach is that he's trying to make a populist position. It doesn't matter whether he wins or loses in the end. He's going to show that these judges are all Democrats. They were appointed by Democratic presidents. And maybe he's looking towards the midterms to try to hold on to the Republican control of both the House and the Senate. Unless there is really a legal argument to be made here. I don't particularly get it. We won't be adding anybody to the queue because we're now at the 6 o'clock hour. But everybody who's in queue, I'm going to try to get to. David, you're up.
Just
I know David always has trouble getting that microphone to work. David, we see your microphone is open, but once again, we cannot hear you.
If you can't go, I can go, Gary.
I'm going to go not to you next.
Hello?
Go ahead, David.
Bitch ass pussy.
Yeah, so, we like to talk about history and how we've dealt with
These
constitutional...
people just repeat themselves.
I'd
It's
like
brutal.
to speak to what happened in the 1950s when Brown versus Board of Education ruled when the Supreme Court ruled from the bench with a resounding 9-0 verdict
Resounding.
that segregation was illegal.
500, innocent people were killed, right? For me, if there is no purpose for all of this, right, that is going to be utilized for some kind of inherent good for the whole cosmos or all of us or whatever, like if there's no purpose
If
for
there's
this,
no Unitarian principle,
if there's no purpose for this, then I genuinely feel like I can't go forward. Like it tampers with my
it's
grit.
just like your opinion, Dr. Sella.
Okay, well now you're in the audience.
I understand what you're saying.
So it tampers with my grit, like my ability. Like if you tell me there's a reason and a purpose that we have to experience evil, and that there's victory in the end over this evil, now I have like this. It empowers me to fight. Like I'll spit a tooth out and get back up and fight. But if you tell me that, there's just no purpose to this, and it is what it is, and all it is that hopefully we can, use this knowledge to evolve, and that's about it, then I just can't play anymore. Like I
found evidence.
Whether you want to put something new, or maybe we let other people to speak.
Let me just see if I can give you a quick summary. Amos, you felt that we lost, and I respect you very much, and I'm coming to visit you soon. And I love you as a fellow Jew and as a member of the original generation, as a pioneer. Without you, we wouldn't have the land of Israel. And I'm grateful to you and everybody.
Thank you.
I'm serious about this. This is no BS. Okay, now let me say what I was going to say. So in this period of whatever it's been now, 16 months, Israel has become immeasurably stronger. We've eliminated a number of threats far, far more serious than Hamas in their hidey holes in Gaza, in their tunnels. We have eliminated the threat of...
I didn't hear what he had to say in answer to my question.
Wisdom's here. You see at the bottom.
Okay, he's back. Good. I'm glad he's back. Thank you for that, Marshall. Alan, you will go after the next speaker. We have two Steves in the room on the stage. We will go to Steve Weed.
Yeah, Gary. I think, one of the issues that we're seeing starting to come up with here in these is the judge had ordered that flight to be turned around. Has a daughter that actually works as an advocate for immigrants in the country. And, one of the things as an elected official I try and do, because this is an important point, it leads to credibility. If there is any conflict that I see arising in my duties as an official with the town that I live in, I recuse myself. And we've had this happen 2 or 3 times here in these things where we have judges levying from the bench orders and decrees with family members that have really conflicting interests to what's being heard before the judge. And, I think you can kind of wrap back and see where this mindset comes from and where the genesis of it is. John Marshall said, it is emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what law is. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chief Justice. It's not up to you to say what law is. It's up to the legislature that crafts the law, and your job is only, and I mean only, to interpret the law as written and in the spirit that it was written and the intent levied from the legislature. This is the hubris and the arrogance of the judicial, that a chief sitting justice would say, it's up to us to say what law is. Well, no one have any problem with him just stripping the legislature out of this? So we got a couple things going on here. We got judges that are conflicted, that should have been recused from even hearing some of these cases. Even in the case of Elon Musk and USAID, that judge had a wife that had conflicts of interest. And we see this repeating as a pattern. Mershon in New York, when Trump had his trial there, his daughter and her association clearly created a conflict of interest. So we have a bunch of compromised judges with conflicts of interest, more than willing to say, no, it doesn't matter, trying to kneecap the president. Now, to your point, should there be judicial review? Yes, there should be. But, if you're going to go down this path and you're going to start throwing stones at glass houses, you better make sure that no one has one throw at yours. And like I say, the absolute hubris of the judicial is encapsulated in Chief Justice John Marshall's words said, it is emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what law is. That gives you the mindset of the judicial. They have no respect for anybody else. And let me ask you this. Who reins in the judicial if they go off the farm? Is anyone reigning?
Legislature, but unenthused of my lifetime, you might not have Congress do that. Congress seems to have abdicated great deals of its responsibility to both the courts and the executive.
Yeah, but my point is it's a very cumbersome and time-consuming thing. Well, with this particular judge here that ordered the plane turned around. Well, the only way you bring this guy to heel, obviously, he has nothing with it. He's not concerned with conflict of interest in a high-profile case. What's your options here? You got to bring him before the Senate and impeach a guy. So what we're seeing is political activism being acted out and using the judicial as a cudgel, as a cudgel against the executive, with compromised judges that are taking these cases where they clearly have a conflict of interest.
So you and I usually agree, Steve. I don't agree at all here in this case. They shouldn't be impeached. What this comes across as to me is, I don't like what they, not you, but the president, I don't like what they ruled, so I'm going to impeach them because I need a judicial branch that will simply do what I tell it to, not what it decides to do, which is...
That wasn't my point at all. That wasn't my point at all, Marshall. My point was... Okay, my point was, and I wasn't calling for any impeachment of this particular judge. What I was saying is, in this case, this particular judge that ordered that plane turned around had a daughter that was working for an immigrant advocacy group. Obviously, he had a conflict of interest. He didn't think that this was anything that he needed to be concerned about. And my larger point was, when judges, we talk about the president going off the farm, but when a judge goes off the farm, and not in this particular case, because I don't think conflict of interest warrants impeachment. I think it's just an ethic thing. But in this particular thing, if we have judges that goes off the farm, we're left with a cumbersome mechanism to correct them. And they know this. So no, I'm not calling for this judge to be impeached. Conflict of interest to me clearly doesn't rise to that level. We're seeing political cudgels being given to judges that's got a dog in the fight. No one's concerned about that. These guys are conflicted. And with the hubris that was expressed by John Marshall, we make the law and say what law is. John Marshall, sorry, buddy, you can be a Chief Justice, but you do not make the law. You interpret. But this is the encapsulation of the hubris that is deep in the judicial. And I'll leave it there.
So, Steve, I have a couple questions for you. One, did the government make a motion for this judge to recuse himself?
Gary, the government should not have to make a motion. No one has to make a motion when I find myself.
I understand that. I understand that. But that's not answering the question. The question is, if the government attorneys agree with your point that there's a conflict of interest with this judge, the government could make a motion for recusal. And by the way, if he refuses, they could take the matter to the chief judge of that district. So to ask that the case be reassigned. So if this is a real concern that the government has, I'm asking in all sincerity, did the government make such a motion?
I can't answer that question. If I answered it, I would be lying to you, because I'm devoid of the facts in this case, whether they made a motion or not. But in my mind, Gary, the government should not have to make a motion when a judge clearly knows he's ruling on an immigration case, and he has a daughter that is working in an immigration advocacy group.
Well, my daughter and I don't always agree on everything, Steve. So,
you know what I'm saying, Gary.
I don't, but I understand that the appearance of a conflict.
And that's the standard. That's the standard, Gary. The appearance of conflict is the standard. And I want to tell you, it points to me to the absolute hubris that's involved with these men. That's what it points to.
So my second question to you, Steve, if you don't mind, is that you feel that Clarence Thomas should have recused himself and should in the future any vote on any case that comes before the Supreme Court that the Federalist Society has direct or indirect involvement in?
Well, if he has ties, of course.
Excuse me?
If he has ties and he's an advocate for him, of course he should recuse.
Well, you know his wife's association with the Federalist Society, right?
Yeah. Well,
and he never recused himself from any cases that the Federalist Society was involved in. They came before the Supreme Court. So I'm wondering if you would make the same strong commentary about Mr. Justice Thomas that you have against this particular judge.
Well, of course, it comes down to the same mindset, the hubris that's involved with these judges. And like I say, you know, Marshall, when he says, we say what
nothing if they do not help you on your way of desire, is wisely coined in the phrase, and even the greatest achievement.
Not the legislature, the judicial. John Marshall, we make the law. That's the hubris of the judiciary, and we need to be careful with them.
Thank you, Steve. Alan.
Thanks, Gary. Can you hear me?
Loudly and clearly.
First of all, I want to bend over backwards whenever possible to agree with my Republican brethren, because I will never live long enough to vote as many times Democrat as I voted Republican. However, I would urge my friend Steve to look at the idea that FDR had for the court, which was called in our history the court packing scheme. I actually don't think it was a court packing scheme. I think it was quite brilliant, and I hope someday, Gary, maybe we can discuss that in this forum. He wants to talk about hubris. What about the hubris of Elon Musk getting orders for his Tesla company, without any contracts, without any cross-bidding on contracts? He wants to talk about hubris. What about the hubris of stealing a justice on the Supreme Court? So it's not unique to one side or the other. So anyhow, with all that said, I really am eager to bend over backwards and deal and agree with Republicans whenever possible. But Republicans no longer believe in consequences. They no longer believe in the rule of law. If they did, they wouldn't have recused all the January 6th people. The other day it was suggested that I'm a progressive. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. I don't think I am. But, if I'm a progressive, it's because I'm not sitting by the side of the road selling pencils. I've heard it suggested here that this is just strategy, pawns in a game. I used to sell insurance and investments, and insurance is not gambling. Insurance is to protect a specific person from something that could happen to anybody. Investing is not a game, or it shouldn't be. And when it's seen as a game for tax avoidance and that kind of a situation as it is with our long-term capital gains, I don't think it does us much good. So, I really think we need to think twice, particularly my Republican brethren need to think twice about these kinds of frivolous expressions about what government is. I would like to see us, Gary, have a session someday on what we all want government to spend less. What are we willing to give up? I have some things I'd be willing to give up.
I'd love that, Alan. That would be such an interesting conversation. I would really like to have that.
Wonderful. Well, I hope we do someday. And I love your comment today about breaking norms. I view America as a tent with three posts. And it's on this island where the wind can blow one way or the other. And if the judicial system right now is too coming back too strong, it's only because they're responding to a president who is completely breaking the norms that Marshall talked about earlier. So that's pretty much what I wanted to throw out here. And thank you for the time, Gary.
Al, I want to add one amendment to your piece. The other part of that is that the Congress, for many different reasons, is failing to do its job. They are not acting in the House as an energetic body, and they're not acting in the Senate as the world's greatest deliberative body. Those two things, I think, produce a world in which we push the hardest societal questions that need to be worked out in our legislative chambers onto the courts and then the executive to promulgate the procedure. And I think added to everything you said, that makes things just so much harder for people.
Thank you for that, Marshall and Alan. And we'll now go to Steve Cronin.
Hi. I want to try and make 4 points. Hopefully I can make them fairly quickly. And I'm focusing really on the subject of the room. I know the conversation has fanned out to a lot of different bigger kind of questions about the country and a lot of things, but I'm going to focus on the original subject. The first point is there's 3 distinct issues that are being compounded and maybe even conflated in the conversation. The first is the jurisdiction of a court to hear a given case. The second is assuming that it's proper for them to hear it, whether they correctly decide, right? Do they interpret the statute right? Do they interpret the Constitution correctly? Do they make the right decision? And then the third is the appropriate remedy. What is it that they then have the power to do in terms of relief? The Trump statements are focusing all on the third issue. They're saying these nationwide injunctions are terrible. And the Trump people are acting as if the first 2 questions don't exist, or they're begging the question and they're just assuming the answers to those two questions, and then they're saying, well, the reason that the nationwide injunctions are wrong is either because the court had no power in the first place, or even if it did have the power, it decided incorrectly. But of course, it offers no evidence, no argument, no substance whatsoever for its argument that the courts don't have the power, which they obviously do, or that the courts have done anything that is substantively incorrect in terms of interpreting the law. A quick side note on that in light of some comments that were made earlier. This is just a side note. I mean, the comment about Chief Justice Marshall's famous aphorism, I mean, I can't think of an example of something being more misunderstood and perhaps taken literally, but with no understanding of its historical context. Chief Justice Marshall was not saying that courts make law, obviously. Chief Justice Marshall was saying the courts get to interpret the Constitution, and they are the final arbiters on what it means, and therefore they have the ability to declare that an act of Congress is unconstitutional. This is a bedrock principle of our judicial system, and to turn it on its head into an aphorism that is a sign of judicial hubris is possibly one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. My second point is a small one, but I think it's important to understand. A lot of the conversation today has confused this idea of what is the court's power, what is its jurisdiction, what is the proper remedy on the one hand, with the precedential significance of its rulings. And Gary, I think you're the worst offender in this regard.
I had a feeling you were directing it to me.
What you mean to say is that when the Court of Appeals issues an opinion that has precedential effect, it only binds the lower courts in its circuit. That's the law of the circuit.
Right, that's what I was trying to say.
But district court judges have the power to do things that affect people outside of their district, right? They may have jurisdiction over parties for a variety of reasons. There's something in the federal courts called diversity jurisdiction, when litigants from two different states have a dispute, they can bring it to federal court and someone from California may find themselves in a trial in Ohio, and the district court may order them to do things even though they have a business in California, and they're obligated to do them in California, and the Court of Appeals in the Sixth Circuit could affirm that. So there's nothing unusual about courts doing things that affect people or even order people to do things or stop doing things outside of their geographical boundaries. What you're talking about is just the precedential effect of their opinions, which is just a completely different thing. So I hope that clears that up. And another just technical point, and then I'll be done with my first 2 points, and then I'll get to my third and fourth point. Lower courts have an important function. It isn't just a question of the Supreme Court can't hear every case. Lower courts are courts where evidence is presented and challenged, where records are built. Both intermediate appellate courts, the courts of appeals and some others, and the Supreme Court, they don't hear evidence. They don't develop the record. They rely on the record that was developed below. So part of the reason cases don't go straight to the Supreme Court, and there is a minor exception to this rule, but let's ignore that, is because they don't have trials. They don't have witnesses. There's no cross-examination. There's no authentication of documents, right? So part of the reason you need to have trials and you need to let lower courts do their thing is because that's where all of this evidence gets developed. That's where we would find out who these people were who were deported. That's where we would find out what the government was saying about why they were doing what they were doing, what they were saying to each other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My third point, having explained those sort of foundational things, is the Trump regime's position basically begs the question, right? As I've already said, they're simply asserting that the judges either don't have the power to do these things, which is obviously false, or that they're getting things wrong on the merit, which is slightly less obvious, but also obviously false. And they're jumping to an issue about which there is genuine disagreement in the academy, in legal circles, among judges. The scope of nationwide relief that judges ought to be able to give is a genuine issue that is discussed a lot. But notice that the Trump folks have jumped over the first two issues, right? They just assume those are true. And they said, and therefore the nationwide injunctions are a horrible thing and we have to stop them. But what they're really saying is, we don't think the courts have the power to do this stuff, even though they obviously do. We don't think the courts are making decisions correctly on the merits, although in most cases they pretty obviously are. So they're just begging the question, skipping over the stuff that's absurd, and jumping to the one issue where they can get some traction, which is, gosh, it just doesn't seem right that one judge in Texas or one judge in California ought to be able to stop a company or the federal government from doing something nationwide. And there's some appeal to that argument. There's a lot of law in that area. Certain circuit courts have tried to give guidelines and to say that this is extraordinary relief and courts should only give it under the following sorts of circumstances. That's a developing body of law. And then the final question, I want to answer your question about why Trump is doing this, which I think is fairly obvious. I agree with you, putting aside some of the details, that they know they're going to lose most of these things. They know most of what they're saying is poppycock. What they want to do is delegitimize the courts, right? They haven't used the expression fake courts, but just, we all know fake news, right? The Trump regime has been very successful in delegitimizing the press, delegitimizing experts, delegitimizing the academy, each in a different way. Just think of this as fake courts. This is just the Trump regime's way of saying fake courts, fake courts, fake courts. Don't believe the courts, don't trust the courts. It's just an effort to delegitimize the courts because they know that the courts have the power to tell them when they're doing something that's unconstitutional, the power to tell them when they're doing something that violates a statute. But they also know that the ability to defy that and not listen to the courts depends on their ability to delegitimize the courts in the view of the general public. And those are my 5 points.
I have one quick question for you. What is a responsible way to have the discussion about nationwide injunctions? As I said, I just know it is an argument inside of conservative jurisprudence that I read sometimes. But in your view, how do you have that conversation in a responsible way?
Marshall, there are like probably 50 law review articles about this subject. I mean, again, if you're talking real, not like rhetoric in the general public trying to frame it so that the average voter will be on your side. I don't know the answer to any of that.
No, I want people to understand. I'm not going to be political about it.
Yeah, there is a concern about this. As is pointed out earlier, it's not always the right or the left's ox who's getting gored. It interconnects, this is why it's complicated, but I'm going to try to answer your question. It interconnects with several other problems in federal litigation. So you can't talk about nationwide injunctions without also talking about forum shopping, right? It's the combination of those two, as well as a couple other factors that I'll mention, that make the problem especially difficult, right? If all judges were fair and did the right thing, and there weren't extremist judges, and we may disagree about which ones those are. The gentleman who spoke earlier, I forget his name, it might have been Steve, right? He obviously has a different point of view than I do about which judges we might be wanting to be pointing a finger at. But, right, they operate in tandem, right? If you know you can file a case in Texas in a district where there's only one judge, and that judge has some very extreme opinions, and that judge has the ability to issue a nationwide injunction, right? It's the compounding of two problems, or you could argue three problems, that make it such a problem. So what's the answer? The answer is, this is the beauty of our system, right? We have a common law system in this country, right? We have an incremental system where judges do things, and then courts of appeals review them, and this is true in state as well as federal law, federal courts. And when a district court goes too far, a court of appeals starts to lay some rules down, right? They say, well, judges do have authority to issue TROs, to order injunctions. They do have the ability to issue injunctions that infect people who aren't parties to the case. But it's an extreme remedy, and these are the sorts of things that ought to be present for a district court to do that. That, going back to my point to Gary, that then becomes the law of that circuit. Other circuits may develop other standards, and it's an issue which ultimately could reach the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court decides, well, there's a circuit split. Some circuits say district courts can do whatever they want. Other circuits say they can only issue a nationwide injunction if these three factors are present, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and the Supreme Court tries to issue guidance. But this extreme view that it's just insane that a district court could issue a form of relief that is nationwide, or if you take the Trump regime at its word, right? They say their position is a judge should only be able to issue a remedy which impacts the aggrieved party in the litigation. So imagine what this would look like, right? A federal employee sues the government and says, you're violating my constitutional rights by firing me. You fired 7,000 other people as well, but you're violating the statute, you're violating the Constitution, you're doing such things as will amaze the judge, and you need to stop it. The Trump regime's position is all the court should be able to do is say, fire Susie back. Susie's the plaintiff in this case. You have found that the government acted against the statute or unconstitutionally, but all the judge should be able to do is order you to hire Susie back. If Bill wants his job back, well, then let him go to some other federal judge or the same federal judge and sue. It's crazy that courts can issue a remedy. It's crazy that, let me finish. It's crazy that courts can issue a remedy that applies to someone other than the actual plaintiff to whom they're giving relief. I hope I've demonstrated why that is an idiotic position. It doesn't deserve to be taken seriously, but it's the sort of stuff that we get out of the Trump regime every day. It's just craziness. And again, they're not doing it because they think they're going to win the day. They're doing it because it's, again, fake. Just think of it as every time they say one of these things, all they're saying is fake courts, fake courts. Oh my God, impeach that judge. Fake courts, fake courts, fake courts. That's all they're doing. It's very simple. They want the general public to believe what Steve already believes. Oh my God, the hubris of the judiciary. They're making laws every day. They're acting in cases in which they have a clear conflict. Kill the judges. Steve already believes what the Trump regime wants us all to believe. And of course, it's nonsense.
So I just want to say, I don't think you were correcting me. I think you were clarifying me, and I'm glad you did. Because apparently I didn't articulate very well my understanding of how the courts work. If it was confusing to you, who understands it better than me. So I'm glad you did that, Steve. But I'm in agreement with your assessment of the roles of the various levels in the federal judiciary. So I'm glad you did that. Thank you. And thank you for all of what you just explained. And I think maybe you're right. I hadn't thought about that the game plan here is not to win at the end before the Supreme Court. It's to win in the court of public opinion if you are trying to undermine the credibility of the court system and show yourself as a victim every time you lose in court. And maybe that translates into votes down the line. I know there are people trying to get on the stage. It's just too late to add anybody. Make your feelings known in the chat above in our Facebook Messenger chat if you can't get on the stage. I apologize for that, but I do have to catch a train, and I want to get to those who have been patiently waiting. Thank you, Steve. We'll go to Anson, Merrill, Wisdom, and if time permits, Hermes. Anson.
Please leave Steve on the stage while I make my first remarks. The first Steve that spoke, that mentioned his interpretation of the Chief Justice Marshall, is a longtime member of this forum, and he usually makes excellent points. And he is not a stupid man. And I deeply resent referring to him as having making the stupidest opinion that you have ever heard. Hubris is rampant in this nation, and that kind of hubris only contributes to the Great Divide. Now, I'll stop at that point and try to make my point.
Well, let's let Steve respond to that. Steve?
There's no need to respond. I think I was clear. What he said about Justice Marshall's quote as support for the idea of judicial hubris is and remains one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Okay, hold on. Anson, if you could hold on your next points just for a moment, because I had to invite Steve Wee back up to the stage because we're talking about him here, and I have to give him an opportunity to respond to all this. Very briefly, if you might, Steve.
Thank you.
I would just ask Steve if the intention and the articulation of Marshall was as you framed it. Why didn't he not preface it with all the elements that you prefaced it with? He didn't talk about all the things that you articulated that gave rise to the legitimacy of the court. He didn't do that. He made a blanket statement, Steve. He made a blanket statement. And I'm going to tell you something else. I am a public official. And as a public official, if I am in conflict with what's before me, not being a judge, but what's before me, I have an ethical duty to remove myself. And if you don't see that, I don't know what your problem is.
Okay, we're going to let Steve Crone briefly respond to that.
I will.
And then I'm just going to let everybody know the rules of the road here because of the time constraints. After this response, I'm going to remove both Steves from the stage and let Anson make his point.
I'm sorry to be so harsh. But Steve, the sentence you're quoting as quote unquote a blanket statement is a quote from a Supreme Court opinion. You're saying it was just a blanket statement and he didn't state the context. It's one sentence in a Supreme Court opinion. I just, with all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about.
Then why did he not qualify?
Read the whole opinion.
Why did he not qualify?
Okay, we're going to stop this here, but I think there is a difference of interpretation, and Steve Wee believes that he did not qualify it, and Steve Crone believes that based on the totality of what was said in the opinion that he did, and I guess it's up to all of us who find this discussion interesting to look for ourselves, and with that, we will move on to Anson's final points. Anson?
Okay, my final point is I want to refer very briefly, not self-promoting, to the essay that I just posted on Substack, Setting National Priorities. We are a nation of laws. We are not a nation of, we articulate our norms through the laws. And why do we have, 14,000 pages of laws on the books? Does anybody Can anybody explain to me why we still have this crazy Alien Enemy Act that was the basis of this whole discussion? A law passed in 1798 that has been, that certainly has been used in the past, that doesn't reflect the norms of the American people, Japanese incarceration, for example. So why is that law still on the books? It's because Congress hasn't done its goddamn job. Because Congress has failed to reflect the norms of this country through the legal system. And the laws many of the laws are contradictory, and I can't imagine how anybody can enforce all the laws that are on the books. And until we streamline the laws, we're going to continue to have this kind of debate and great divide. Congress is the one that has to do it, not the courts. Congress has to get the laws right so that they reflect the interpretation. This whole thing with these 200 or however many it was that went to El Salvador, is it the norms of the United States that we are going to deport people to a hellhole prison in El Salvador? Should the United States do that? I don't think they should. But that's not the real issue. The issue is, if you were deported under the Aliens Enemies Act, then you should not be deported. You need to go through a different set of priorities. We have, 10 million people that are, for lack of a better word, illegal aliens, which to me means they are in this nation and they have not yet completed the court process to declare them to be legal residents of this nation. 10 million people. That is because of the confusion and the lack of enforcement of the laws that are on the books. And that's why we're in this situation. And that's why there's this great debate over how are we going to control the flood that has been coming into our nation for the improvement of the quality of life of the people that are citizens and residents of the United States. And that's the big issue. Congress needs to pass the laws that reflect that majority public opinion. That's all I'll have.
Anson, I couldn't agree more. And there's a clarion call in what she said. For those who are listening and not on stage, this doesn't just mean writing your congressman, and it doesn't mean just paying attention every 2 to 4 years. This means that 15 minutes a day, you need to give yourself the space. You need to block it off in your calendars. You need to sacrifice 15 minutes out of your time to keep going with what's going on in your district, what's going on in the nation. But think about what's going on in your own home first, right? This is your clarion call to help with that. As is made very clear in the Moral Republic, which many people have not read, part of the reason republics fail is because good people do nothing. Sometimes because there are incentives not to. But we can't be so pessimistic about it that we try not to jump in. You have to force yourself to do it. But give it 15 minutes a day. Make the sacrifice. I promise you, when you wake up a year from now and you've given participation in activism 15 minutes of your day, the world around you is going to be a far better place.
Thank you, Marshall. Anson, as you were speaking, I was kind of chuckling because I, too, have an interest in this issue of outdated laws. And years ago, and I don't know whether this law is still on the books, but years ago when I was a reporter at WWJ in Detroit, I took a look at outdated laws in Michigan. Still on the books was a law that was enacted by the state legislature when the first horseless carriages were put on the streets. And the law says that when you're driving at night, you must have a person running in front of your car holding a lantern. That was the law back then, and the law was still on the books.
So technically speaking, every single driver who drove at night in Michigan was breaking the law. So there were like, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10 absurd examples that I used in the story that I did. And they may have codified things since then. And of course, no cop is going to pull you over, I hope, for not having somebody run in front of your car with a lantern. But there you have it. Sometimes laws
But I would add that there's probably some wingnut liberal judge that would throw Trump into jail if he didn't have somebody running in front of his car with a lantern when he was driving it.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you, Anson. Marshall, I got to move on, otherwise
sorry, I forgot about
yeah, because I got the train to catch, and I guess maybe that's a good thing. Otherwise, we never get out of here. And which is also a good thing that there's so much interest. We'll go to Merrill, and then to Wisdom, and if time permits, Hermes. Merrill.
Okay, all right. I'm going to do this quickly. I agree with everything that Steve Crone said. With regard to Gary, you essentially said the same thing about judges have to hear the merits.
I don't think I articulated it very well if Crone didn't catch it, so I'm glad he clarified it for us.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, Steve Weed, if you are assuming that is a conflict, that he has a daughter who does work with immigration or whatever, an advocate, it doesn't matter. That does not, and I think Steve Crone will agree, that does not mean that he has a bias. That is not a conflict. There's nobody that showed that he had a conflict. You're the only person who's saying that now. Nobody showed the conflict. Nobody showed where he was involved with what his daughter was involved with. The other thing that I find very interesting is Trump is just doing what Trump does. It has nothing to do with the merits of the case. It has nothing to do. Trump is mad because somebody said no to him. That's it. Steve uses it right. It's the Trump regime. And that is, you cannot say no to him. And he believes he's the president and nobody's going to tell the president what to do. And that works for him. That's it. It works for him. With regard to the appointments of judges, go read some of the judges that Trump appointed. 10 of them weren't even qualified. They were rated as unqualified. So we can address that. Regard to Clarence Thomas's wife should have been considered an unindicted co-conspirator. It's not about the Federalist Society. She got $600,000 from the Heritage Foundation, and he did.
I apologize. It was the Heritage Foundation, not the Federalist Society.
And all conservative judges are members of the Federalist Society and are recommended by the Federalist Society. And she was somebody who actively did emails. She contacted people. She contacted and wrote emails and said, you must stop this deal. She was very actively involved. So that is a major conflict. And he did not, there was one case that he did not recuse himself from. It was the only judge who said that the National Archives should not be, or that the court was not entitled to just read all the emails. He was the only judge. It was unanimous other than him. So he never has removed himself, and he never will. So that's that. But most important is all this judge did, he did a temporary injunction. It harmed nobody. It only harmed Trump politically because he said, I'm going to do this to his followers. I'm going to do this. They were in custody. Everybody is entitled, whether we like it or not, they are entitled to hear, a judge has to hear the merits of the case. Because if you didn't, and you said, okay, let him go, there would be another appeal on the other side. And with regard to what Anson said, you know what? I'm not going to tell you that every judge would do that to every liberal. I really don't should say that you assume that every liberal judge would make a decision against Trump on an old, archaic law. Thank you.
I just like to suggest one thing, Meryl, a slight correction, and that is Steve's comments don't come in a vacuum. If you look at the chat, which is linked above, you'll see, I don't know whether you actually posted that to the chat. Maybe you should, Steve. I think maybe you posted it to me in a direct message. But there's an article published that accuses the judge of a conflict of interest. Whether that is valid or not, the argument is beside the point. The bigger point is, I don't think Steve is alone, Steve Wee, in believing that. And so, Steve, it would be helpful maybe if you're still in the room to post that to the main chat. And I'm going to go to Wisdom, and we'll try to squeeze Hermes in.
Hey, Gary. Hey, I'm at usdebtclock.org. I'm looking at 43 million food stamp recipients. There's 23 million millionaires. There's 704,000 homeless, which seems really low to me. It says there's 37.5 million Americans living in poverty. The total, they changed it a little bit. But listen, the wealth per citizen is 493,000. The stock market value is 50 trillion. Land market value, 24 trillion. Real estate, 74 trillion. We're an extremely wealthy nation. But when you look at Doge and you see the contracts and the waste that are being spent at the federal government, I'm on Doge on X right now. 18 hours ago.
No, that's not what we're talking about. Can you answer the title in the room, bro? We're not talking about Doge today.
Everyone had their moment here to speak. If you're not going to let me talk, I mean, I voted for Trump twice. I'm a Republican. I'm primarying a Republican rhino. If you don't want to let me speak, you're not the super mod. This is Gary's room. He's very tough but fair.
Well, Marshall is correct. We're talking about the president's allegation that federal judges are going too far. And if what you're saying leads into that, that's great, but it doesn't sound like it is, and we are short on
It
time.
is. Okay, well, let me just finish. What I really wanted to read were a few politics and power maxims and aphorisms to give you food for thought.
No. What do you know?
Okay, Dr. Marshall. Okay, dominate the stage with no intelligence. If you don't want me to try to say what I'm thinking and feeling, then this is censorship. You're a fake Republican, Rhino Marshall. You're a fake. Boom. That's how it goes down. We're primarying the rhinos here. Primary them all. Oh, it's a tough audience. I gotta yell at them sometimes to wake them up. Wake it up.
Inserted the chapter breaks based on subject matter and other historical events. But if you read chapter 17, it starts with, and in 6 days Jesus took Peter, John, and James up to a hill, and he transfigured and shone in the brightness of his in his kingdom.
Okay, this is Marshall Breath Stinking Fake Republican. Oh, we have to rhino these people. They're all the same. Holy shit. Dr. Eva. Oh, man. Yeah, Marshall's a total loser. He is a complete and total loser. Dr. Benji, welcome. Welcome to Marshall Breath Stinking Fake Republican, Dr. Benji. Who is the puppet master now? Let's play a game. The puppet master has become the puppet! Let's play a game.
Hello, Wisdom.
So,
Play a game.
invite people to the room.
I want to play a game, Wisdom, in your own house.
You have become the master.
This is somewhat called an enemy of enemies, my friend. Let's get it started, shall we?
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it farted. Marshall's breath smells like a turd. He's a fake Republican. My party, the Republican Party. Oh man.
The chances of you
That was
seeing
like
this
punishment.
YouTube short are super rare. There's over 100 million YouTube channels.
So anytime you can call Marshall stink ass breath Rankin a fake Republican, it's a win in my book. You know, you got to yell at these people. I don't understand. If they're gonna practice censorship and try to, thought police you on everything, it's insane. They don't want to hear actual numbers. They don't want anything real quoted to them. They just want to all political grandstand and then run away like cockroaches into their piles of shit. I've already said too much. You know why, Dr. Benji? Because I just need to go to the gym. At the end of the day, I win by staying alive, by being in shape. Because all of these triple vaccinated, quadruple boosted rhinos, I don't know how long they'll make it. I don't.
You said something really, really interesting. Going to the gym. Most people don't want to.
Yeah. There's a 24-hour gym near me, which I always end up going if I procrastinate during the day. And people on here drag me down with them. But to leave right now, it's like you got to go during hours where it's actually usable, because sometimes people will just sit there on their fucking cell phones and you can't even get on the equipment. But you don't want to actually talk to any of these people because they're at the gym using their cell phone. And plus, if you say, "Excuse me, can I work in with you?" Some of them will literally stick up a finger and say, "Talk to the finger." They won't even look at you. They'd rather look at their cell phone than be a real human. So what we're dealing with, Dr. Benji, whether it's on this app or at the gym or at the office, is we're dealing with robots, low IQ humans who are barely alive, but they talk. And that's the problem, is you can't just put a bag over their head and kick them away like a robot, and have it go bounce into furniture and stuff. You actually have to, they won't leave you alone. You see what I'm saying? And then they can become a problem. And so that's what we're dealing with here, Dr. Benji.
Yeah, when you look at the bigger picture, these people just argue over words and trying to prove who's right and get mad when you just watch the crowd look stupid and going maniac.
Exactly. A lot of people want to try to control the genie as opposed to just put the genie back in the bottle. And you can't control the genie. The genie is in control. It's not the other way around. I don't know. Who knows? Dr. Zenimini, welcome to Marshall Breath, stinking fake Republican Marshall Rankin. Fake ass Texas piece of shit from the Rio Grande, a fucking George Bush acolyte, has a bunch of couple technical terms that he likes to throw around as if he, is like some type of leader. Make sure you stay in touch with your Republican Party, everybody. Just takes 15 minutes of your time.
I wonder when people will come to realization. They just argue over words and perspectives, not over no God or anything.
The problem with the people who are arguing over God is it's kind of the same argument. It's just the weak argument. It's not really the meat and potatoes. And nobody wants to hear the truth. Everybody wants to essentially position themselves, politicize themselves, get their comment, get their clip, and then run. And that's it. Everybody's looking for 10 minutes of fame, 3 minutes of fame, and that's it. Everybody's in it for themselves, including myself. But at least I can accurately diagnose and describe the situation. Most other people are completely unaware of how unaware they are. So that's the power of wisdom. And thus, if you really understand wisdom, you should run for politics, because there's no point in letting stupid people rule you. It doesn't make any sense to possess wisdom and to just let incompetent, fake, inauthentic pieces of shit like Marshall Rankin rule you? Why in the world would you let a fat, disgusting piece of shit who's a low IQ traitor rule you? No way. It makes no sense to live your life like that. You have to fight these people. And what does that mean? You have to take a sword and go cut their fucking heads off. Like a dragon, you might say, because they are demons. They are liars, they are degenerates, they are low IQ and immoral people. Do not trust these people. Trust the moralists and the ethicists and the people who prescribe to law, not fake law, aka your politicization and opinion. Fight back against these people because they're fighting you. They're trying to dominate you. They're trying to rule you. So, if you've got bad breath, you have to use mouthwash. You've got to brush. You need to floss. And you know what? There's a thing called a water pick. A water pick. It's like a pike. You know? Pick it. Pick at them. Pick these fucking pieces of shit. And flick them into the abyss where they belong. So that was a segment called Trump Derangement Syndrome Podcast, or the Trump Derangement Syndrome Podcast for Psychology Today. We are investigating beta cuck Republicans who somehow have positions of authority and power in the Republican Party. And we are here to expose them all. If you have long hair and you dress up like a woman and you call yourself a Republican organizer, we got issue with you. We do. We don't want any trans on our side helping recruit. We're good. So this is the Trump Derangement Syndrome Psychology Room where stank-ass breath, shit-eating Marshall Rankin, a clown house zero and Republican hero, or I should actually say Republican hero and a clown house zero, is he's the guy here. You know, he's the Republican voice who gets platformed because he's really a beta cuck. He's a fake Republican. It's the only reason why they actually let him speak here. That's how this piece of shit app works. This app is literally the barnyard of human feces on all sides. It is. It's the outhouse of everyone.
You're 100% right. You know, like I'm taking a dump right now. So.
Yeah, I love taking a shit and using this app. That's the first thing I do in the morning is I warm up with a turd and I listen in to see which piece of shit is fuming its farts into the ether. Marshall, is that you? I think I smell Marshall stinking. He's a Rankin. That's how you play this game. You know, but it's almost over. Trump and Doge and the new administration, you cannot stop them. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful what's happening. They are taking over the government piece by piece, dismantling piece by piece. And you know, this is big for Rep. Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. They are the two outliers, the only people who can seem to predict the future. And if they are predicting the future, then we are in a good place. So, despite any attempt by Marshall Rankin, Stankin, and Gary Baumgarten, and all the Trump derangement syndrome, low IQ fucktards in the deep state, I listened to them today, and that's just incredible. They are the Doge resistance force. And it's just so funny because there's nothing they're actually not organizing anything, which is kind of beautiful. It's kind of just like a kumbaya, basically. Like, let's try to feel good in the face of adversity, but they're all just virtue signalers having all their hot air taken out of their bags, and they're just not feeling good about it.
It's really interesting to see, like, the protests at Teslas and stuff, that it's all, like, people with silver hair, like, super, like, white hair. It's like a lot of people have been brainwashed by the TV.
Well, any man who presents as a woman and torches Tesla equipment, you know, and writes the N-word on stuff, we are dealing with serious mental and physical health problems. People are so fucking unhealthy. They're pale as fuck. You can see the black rings under their eyes. It looks like they haven't seen sunlight in years. They're triple vaxxed, quadruple boosted. Like, this is the result of what happens when really the country goes to waste internally because all of our policing.
You know, like the only reason why they promote Marshall, the breathtaking, fake Republican, is because he doesn't have any dangerous ideas to promote. He's a neutered dog.
Yeah.
And that's all he is.
I know. I feel like I need to call some of the Chicago Republican contacts that I have here because they're all pretty cool, chill people, and they agree with a lot of this stuff. But the apparatus really is centered around F words. And yikes. It's like
F-word club and you're not in it,
yeah, it's an F word club. It's like F boys, F boys. Um, man, they do the gayest things. They're very gay, and I don't mean like happy. I mean F word. That's the kind of F word I mean. Anyways, this is fun and funny. I want to try to pipe in another room to see if we can catch anything else for this culmination in the clubhouse Trump derangement syndrome with federal judges.
Do you know that there's been 331 national injunctions and only 30 of them have been before Trump? So all the other rest of these national district, injunctions done by judges have been done while Trump is in office. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. It's nuts. I've been hearing, like, instead of, like, impeaching these judges, we should just, completely delete these, district courts. Just, like, say, you like, I don't know, like, delete them from the judicial branch. Say, hey, you're done. And I don't think that requires, like, 2/3 vote to impeach the judge. You can just say, yeah, this court doesn't exist anymore.
I got like some big response on X, but it's like some chain basically. It's like a rocket chain by Vic Cervantes. These must be all fake accounts. Man, no, these are big accounts. Wow. So Pete Hegseth removed Colin Powell's name from a list of notable Americans. Then he just reposts fake. I don't know, because this really is like the dismantling of the resistance in a way. Like literally. It's got to be literal. It can't just be figurative. So I'm just expecting a rush.
He has to cross the Rubicon.
Yeah, I agree, right?
All of this is just, fake WWE kabaki theater. He has to cross the Rubicon, destroy it. Just go after this corruption. Honestly.
See, the trouble with that is he's the balancing man, meaning that like if he fucks around, he finds out. So it's almost like he's got to see. It's so crazy to think like you got to be like Nancy Pelosi because she's the real like alpha primate. She's the real predator. You just see Trump's power comes from within. And the more he gets baited and the more he gets gaslit, that's why I say like his desk, that Oval Office, was like the clearing.
And like the pictures and like the relics and the symbols that he's put up in the Oval Office. Holy shit, so good, so good.
Yeah, I mean that's his battleground, really. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what is crossing the Rubicon? Because it's got to be like a Michael Corleone type of operation where you take out all the nexus points and essentially you completely cripple the network and you create a whole new network.
Yeah,
that's what Doge is doing.
Yeah. It's an infrastructure. It was IT. It was literally an IT thing created by Obama, and they just repurposed it. So I think they went really out after like the critical nexus points, like the federal computers that print out money out of thin air. And even I think Musk was saying that these computers, like several of them, they haven't been, accounting for like the money being sent out. Like they're just printing free money. It's not in any sort of balanced accounting sheet, with like your credit or what's that?
It's not one. It's not 1-to-1.
Yeah, exactly. So like, they literally found that he said like I think 14 computers that were just printing money, that unaccounted money. So I wonder. Yeah, it's just I think they really hit hard with the infrastructure, especially like in IT.
It's kind of funny because IT controls the whole thing. So once they take over to the directorship of the IT, because in many ways they have to find out like who's on board, with Trump. Like you can't just like undertake a massive Doge cleaning until you can kind of, in a way, find out who the partisans are. Like who are the people that are going to sabotage? And there's people like that, little ways and big ways.
Did you hear about that one department in our government that was like, I don't know, like kind of entangled with like the lobby network in DC? How like they were living like kings in their at their offices, like they had showers, like free. It was just insanity, like the sort of money that was being spent, like over like 60 employees. Like the median, I think, employee salary in that government department was like $400,000, and there was like 73 employees. It's insanity. It's like, and this is like, our tax money is going towards these people.
Well, that's the problem. Is the more immoral our government is, it also shows how like incredibly immoral our just general society is. There's so much fraud out there, international, criminal, domestic. That's why like shutting down of the treasury or of the education department and the hundreds of billions of dollars, like there's a lot of fraud in education, and I've seen it firsthand here in Chicago with the Chicago public school systems. The Barbara Bird Bennett, the former head, is in jail for bribery. That my former high school dean in jail for bribery, because you're talking about $1 million contracts with no competitive bidding. They're basically, it's all just fucking quid pro quo. So we need arrests. The Rubicon, in my opinion, is mass arrests.
Executions.
Well,
executions afterwards, after they are sent to trial. These 51 intelligence officers, they should go to the court of law and be executed as traitors to the government. Honestly, like it's disgusting. These people that lied about Hunter Biden, I was so disgusted by it.
Well, I think like even public floggings could be in order because, and I'm not making this up, like it's got to be personal. Like the population needs to feel the pain. If we just execute with rifles or electrocute or inject, I don't think that's substantial enough. I think like, real punishment should be real in the same way that a country, they cane.
CDT, cock and ball torture.
No, caning, public canings. That's what they do in Indonesia. To all their LGBTQ. If you are on an app and you get caught, spreading disease and being a male prostitute, you don't get murdered. They cane you in a public square, and thousands of people come out and have a great afternoon. We waste a lot of money.
Sessions, yeah, I kind of like that. Public shaming sessions where we beat you to an inch of your life, and then we laugh at you afterwards.
I don't know if it's an inch of your life, but when you walk out of there, you're gonna have permanent scars.
I know in Singapore, like they'll do like 15 lashings of you if you like spit gum on the floor. That's what I've heard.
These other countries are not like our country. We have a major problem in this country. It's a culture problem. It's a language problem. It's a class problem. You go to any room on this app. I mean, I've heard some really egregious rooms, recently where you're just like, damn, this is like hardcore ghetto,
Did you see that link that I sent you with the content production that I was doing? With like the white dragon and the red dragon.
I watched one of your most recent YouTube one, which was hilarious. Eventually, I had to leave because I just can't take it anymore. It was too much.
Yeah, it's pretty vulgar. For the vulgarate masses.
The vulgate.
Yeah.
The literate.
I've been reading Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike since I have a 2-hour drive every day. There's 15 hours left. I'm on the 19th degree, and it's going deep into Gnosticism and all comparative religion. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
I know. I've read
so
it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I've read it many times, and every time I read it, I'm blown away. But almost every book I have, every time I read a book, I'm always blown away. So it's it's not necessarily the book per se; it's books. And
have you read Ecclesiastes?
In the Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read it to Bussy and Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
They really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you probably got them turned on.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, that's
that's the sort of pleasure that they get. Let them get pleasure from that. But I'm thinking about it in a more philosophical, psychological way.
I get that, and I mean, I think real Christians are there to try to help people like them. Meaning that the opposite is God always manifests in the opposite. So preaching or leading by example is the epitome of your knowledge. So I don't know. I'm here a lot for the entertainment, but at other times, it's great to try to help program people with positivity because there's a lot of people on the struggle. And, if you are that 10 seconds of positivity in one day, you're the only one. There's no other positivity.
Mind if I read the first chapter of Ecclesiastes?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Let me pull it up really quick. It's really beautiful. I know it's super beautiful, poetic, and I wish I could read the original, language just to, but I don't think I'll have ever enough time to learn another language in my lifetime, so I don't think it's going to be possible. Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Everything is meaningless. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets, and it hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full, to the place the streams come from, where they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Yes, it's pretty beautiful stuff. Beautiful words. So it's the actions that we do today, in the greater scheme of things, they won't be remembered later on in the future. My great-grandparents, I know about them, but, it's they're the reason why I exist, but it's not that I'm constantly focused on them, so.
Yeah, but you were doing the same thing that they were doing then, which is being in the now and being pragmatic and commonsensical and optimistic and working hard and being productive and trying. What else can you do? I mean, you can't stop natural disaster when a fucking hurricane takes you out on a Sunday night and you're like, oh shit, there goes my life.
Yeah, I know, that's why, it's like sort of like reaching that point in your life where no matter the circumstances or anything really, like internally, externally, you empty of yourself of like that sort of like it's like a realization that comes upon you where you're like, everything is good, everything, like what you say, like there's nothing out of place in the entire universe. Everything is as it's meant to be. Like this conversation that we're having now, it was meant to be, like, I guess. So.
Well, it says there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe, meaning that even when Elon gets torched and the N-word gets painted and everything explodes, like that's unfortunately the demon in the bottle. That's the opposite and equal reaction. It's basically Newtonian physics, which is just balancing, and that's equanimity, as I think you said earlier. Doctor, my friend, the trash bag has arrived.
Hey, what's up, Zach? I don't know if his mic is working. I guess he left. Hey, welcome back.
What's up?
Oh, we're just reading Ecclesiastes. Have you ever read that book?
In the Bible?
Yeah.
I've skimmed it.
It's really, really good. Like, do you want me to read, like, the first chapter?
Ecclesiastes, you know what? I do remember this one because this is like the hippie chapter in the Bible.
I don't know if I would call it the hippie chapter. What do you think, Wisdom?
I think when he means hippie, I think he means technically Gnostic.
Okay. Do you know much about Gnosticism, my friend?
I read Damien by Herman Hesse.
I was gonna mod him. I actually accidentally put him in the audience. My bad. I was really good at mod Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Damien,
My bad.
Damien.
Make him moderator.
There. Anyways, Gnosticism is basically just unity with God. It's like God consciousness. You can put yourself into a trance and theoretically unite with the Spirit of God.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back. I did not mean to move you into...
No worries. It just somehow it killed... I don't know how to kill my mic. But, yeah, listen, this is very hippie. What do people gain from all of their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. Everything goes on and on, but we stay here in the woods smoking weed. Therefore, it is the hippie
We
book.
should be, content, irregardless of whatever is going on externally or internally.
Right, it's like the Tao. It's the Tao version. It's the Tao in the Bible. It's the Tao chapter. Have you ever heard Sunrise, Sunset by Bright Eyes? Connor Oberst?
Never, no.
Oh, that's a good song. Sunrise, sunset. You wake up, then you undress. It always is the same.
You really think about it, like, each day of your life is like a lifetime, if you think about it, right? Like, and when you go to bed, that's like you going to death. And then the next
Right, well,
day
this is the 8 shields. I think I told John about the 8 shields, but are you familiar with the concept of the 8 shields?
No, I'm not.
So it's a concept that is employed in the field of nature education. 8 shields is a rubric that one can use to organize their nature education courses. And other courses as well can be organized according to the 8 shields model. And I have a book that outlines it. But basically, the 8 shields are the 8 directions. And we know about the cardinal directions, east, south, blah, blah, blah. But then there's also the ordinal directions, the in-between, northeast, blah, 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 southwest. And the idea is the year is the day, is the lifetime, is
your activity session. So in the east, the sun rises, you are born, the day begins, and you have a welcoming circle. In the south, the sun is high in the sky, and you are working hard, and you are in your youth and young adulthood, and in your activity period, you are working. Then the sun is in the west, you are an adult, it's time for reflection, am I living a good life? It's the afternoon, it's time for setting on the porch, it's time for a break, and then it's time for cleaning up. And then the sun goes into the north, where you go to bed, the day is over, you're dying, it's a time for old age, it's a time for rebirth and revisioning, and then you can have like a closing circle, and then you move back to the east.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, so you can use the seasons and the directions to organize your day, and it's nice because, like, no matter what you're doing, it's like, it's morning. It's like the east energy. What comes with the east? New beginnings, bright sunshine. Like, it's not a time for smoking weed necessarily at 5 in the morning, you know? It's a time for new beginnings and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, blah, 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 I am complete.
It's always been words, 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 right? You know? That's what it is.
And that's another song that I recommended to John long ago, which is called The Rhyme Scheme by a band called Cursive. Have you ever heard of Cursive?
No, I haven't.
The Rhyme Scheme. And at the end of it, he's like screaming. And he says, words just don't work. Words are slowly demeaning. Anyway, it's a good song. I think then he says, words make things worse. Words are slowly revealing. It's not a time.
I want to I've done sort of like a little bit of like analysis on Clubhouse. I want to see if like anything that I wrote down about it resonates with you guys. And so like on Clubhouse, it's all about inverse power dynamics. The more you speak in a room, the greater the intelligence that accumulates over time. More about like the sort of like social intelligence of you and the understanding of the other person. Like a room is all about power politics and what we focus on, you know, with our attention. If we don't think if that's interesting, we'll interrupt like a person to bring our own perspective. Like if any of you are going to do it right now, like if you don't think what I'm saying is interesting, you'll interrupt. When you think the conversation is boring, I think like there's this thing called group intelligence, and like it was something like this happened in China, like with a thing called struggle sessions, where like you try to fit into sort of like the greater hive mind, I guess, whatever that means. I very much know what the struggle sessions are. I didn't mean that to. I just meant so you don't waste time explaining it. Yeah. No, and like the more information that you've withheld from other people on Clubhouse, the more powerful that information becomes to you and what you want to do with it. So there's that. And also silence is the most powerful tool. So that's why like I'm kind of like a goo god. You're a goo goblin.
So the first thing that I thought about, that I'm still thinking about, is that like I just, you know, I didn't create a clip out of what you just said, but the point is it's like, imagine a hypnosis club where like every conversation is essentially neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis. And so each comedian keeps trying to essentially rehypnotize and dehypnotize. And it just becomes kind of funny because everybody's...
It kind of does, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's like all your analysis is accurate, but at the same time, it's still just hypnosis. And so people don't like it when I do this, but it's like all communication is hypnosis. It's like the ultimate reframe.
Yeah, it's the ultimate gaslighting tool. But that does kind of like, yeah, you're
See,
right.
it's
like,
more than just a gaslight tool. It's something you actually have to ponder because
I'm deploying it with like my coworkers, that phrase, and a lot of them just get kind of like steamrolled by it, like by their own story that's being run inside their own head. So it's like, sure, like they almost have dialectical aphantasia, or like aphasia. I mean, like dialectical aphasia, or no, semantic aphasia of the words that you're saying. Like they'll hear the words that you're saying, but their own story or whatever sort of story that's being played out with the own words and sort of life experiences and the amount of weight that they've given. I mean by like power that they've given over to like to certain words. It doesn't really snap them out of their own trance, That's what I've noticed.
So, I mean, back to, the title, Ecclesiastes or whatever. I think it's next to the Song of Solomon in the Bible as well, the King James Bible or whatever.
Is it true that, like if you're a Jewish person, you can't read the Song of Solomon until, like, you're a certain age?
I thought that was the Kabbalah.
The Zohar.
No, like, I think it's also, like, the Song of Solomon, because it talks about, like, deers and, like, how, like, they resemble the shape of women, and it's, like, a very...
Oh, maybe.
Anyways, it's just a great document. I mean, I think if we were to, like, rate the most hypnotic documents, it's up there, but... that's why I say you got to study China and India for like more perspective on self, because once you know how ludicrous the self is, like I don't know if you've seen videos that come out of India and like how they do religion essentially, or really what the third world is like, is that like all of us are first world
there are a whole bunch of cargo cults. That's what they are. There are a whole bunch of cargo cults that they believe if they do a certain sort of, actions, certain things will then occur. It's sort of like how this one tribe in the South Pacific literally built planes out of bamboo shoots thinking, if we do this, like food will come down from the skies because that's what we see out there. They think, so I don't know, that's how I feel about it.
I mean, you're talking about 1.4 billion people. That's 150 million engineers. You're talking about a huge IQ population. China as well. And so the extremely well-educated, learned people have these massive large language databases on math, on physics, on chem, on material sciences. I mean, some of them may be religious, but the point is, you could say in a way that Clown House is its own cult, because like as a whole, it is an internal network, and everyone is a part of it.
Like an onion where there's layers, or like a spider web, where you have sort of like or Indra's net if you're talking more Hindu.
It's technically an org chart. It's an org chart, and it used to be more transparent because you got to see who referred you, but there's no real transparency in this org chart unless you're actually in the back end. So all the data, all the interactions, who the people are, like it is one giant fucking org chart, and it's a profile ID. They might be able to cross. And
then maybe see like where like the cross pollination of ideas occur, or who's like a mimetic super spreader.
See, that's when this app gets interesting, but how much do you want to bet that on the back end, they don't even think about that shit? I bet you they don't.
I'm just thinking maybe like if I was them, I would be analyzing everyone's conversations with neural networks, classifying any news sort of on a probability basis of like agentic ideas that sort of arise from natural people that do ideation, I guess.
I mean, if and when you can create a bot that is able to have this conversation, which would be very close to self-awareness, and have it like fully automate that, where you actually cannot detect whether or not you're talking to a human or an AI chatbot.
Society is fucked. Yeah, you'll be able to like do like massive persuasion.
It's the Turing test.
But the Turing test, that creates a
voice with like a real voice. Like being able to change your dynamics. You like literally do anything with your voice.
Yeah, and a real pussy that you can fuck.
No, what it does is it automates a containment field or a sanitarium. And so what we're talking about, I gotta show you this guy from Georgetown who creates these. He's like a professor of neurological warfare sciences. And in many ways, this is like the cryptocurrency of future mind control, where, because if there is like I don't know how all this is going to work out, but I don't know. This app could either get deleted because it is totally fucking useless and they're not making any money from it, but for somehow, because it cashed out years ago when there must have been flush money, it can survive. But even the founders of the app, they're nowhere to be seen. They're all busy living their best lives as multimillionaires, raising their families. Like, they're not here talking about meta.
I will tell you, I have shown this app to several people in my life, and it has appealed to none of them. And similar to you, the guy who got me on this app in the first fucking place has long since moved on and is working his job and fucking his wife and raising his 5-year-old son. So, I don't know what it is about you and me that attracts us to this horrible waste of time, but it's a you problem is what I'm saying. It's a you and me problem. Now Chris is on the phone, so now it's extra awkward. But I just did the jujitsu. I'm going to get some Chinese takeout. I'm going to eat it with my girlfriend. Tomorrow I'm going to work. Then I'm teaching driving. At some point I'm going to make a video. We got to find time for creative production, but also, this is it. This is what it is. This is living our best lives. You're living your best life right now. What if this is as good as it gets? Did you hear the argument that I had with the guy in Chillism about the word degradate? Maybe you're refilling.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, I am refilling my Vermosa. I heard it, but I wanted to go back to like the fact that if this is as good as it gets, it's still not that bad compared to the whole history of human disaster. So
that's what I'm saying. This is good. This is good. You have a beer mosa? I'm driving. I'm literally driving right now and smoking weed at the same time.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but the thing is, you want more material assets. You need more material assets. You need housing that you own, housing that you don't owe debt on. You need savings. You need resources. You need tools. You need art. You need power. And so that's really the formula that you have to figure out. It's only 4 variables, but once you can figure out how to properly um, place, and do the alchemy or create catalysts or kill 4 birds with 1 stone, then you'll start accumulating, you know, your whole problem is communication. You are literally communicating to me right now that you're trash. And that's why, like, either use your real name or use a power name like Phoenix, Phoenix Bull. I know you think it's funny, but you are the words. And so that's why I say, that's why I'm called wisdom. I mean, I am constantly communicating what I believe to be the most powerful truths. So,
Well, I am your friend. I'm forcing people to say my friend.
I know, but it's a whole mantra. You have the last name, and you have the PTR. It's branding. I mean, you could be Rewild Maine, but you choose not to be. You want to be irascible.
Well, I can't be Rewild Maine guy on Clubhouse telling people. I mean, I could be.
You could
get off Clubhouse now.
You wouldn't get your dope though. You wouldn't get your dope. You want to.
This is my funny.
You want to go into chillism or any of these other low IQ stupid rooms and use the N word without your identity. That's it. You want your dopamine feedback from using the N word with N words. That's it. That's why you want to not use your name. I witnessed it today. I was like, holy shit, he's going all in with the N word. I couldn't believe it. You were getting away with it.
Am I Matrix or you can't?
I can't really hear you. You're in the Matrix.
I'm in the Matrix. I'm saying I got sick of them saying everywhere I went they said Zach fucks a tranny. That story ruined everything. And so everywhere I go it's like Zach Ruda fucked a tranny, and I had better luck as my friend Trashback.
Dude, I was at the gym yesterday, and I see this like chick with big tits and her shorts up her ass, and I was like, I can't. And it's late at night. It's like midnight at the gym. I'm like, damn, there's like a hot fucking bitch working out here. I was like, she's dressed like a hoe.
You're getting excited.
I couldn't believe it. So I always have my suspicions, and I couldn't see the face. So I'm finally like working through the machines, and I get close. I take a quick peek. As soon as I take a quick peek at the face, he takes a quick peek at me, and I'm like, it's a trans.
Oh
but the funniest thing is all the guys who were checking him out, and doing head turns and laughing and saying, yeah, he likes to keep that shit tight up his ass. I couldn't tell if the guys who were checking her out, they gave no indication that he was a man. And so, but it was still so funny watching every man like be in disbelief. Like, what the fuck did I just see? I can't believe this. He has fake tits.
No, I feel like I told you this story before about when I was walking along and I saw the boobs first. Sometimes you're walking and like coming towards you, there's a great tits. And it was like a summer's day and the pair of tits was wearing a white t-shirt and like I could see the nips poking through. And I was like, wow, that's all I saw coming towards me, like a feminine body, tits. And then I saw the face, and it was very much clearly a man. Like, it looked like Iggy Pop. It was a man who looked like Iggy Pop. And he was looking at me, and that's the end of the story. I checked out that dude's boobs. That's what happened. I looked at the dude's boobs.
Yeah, when I was at the beach, there was a guy with his shirt off, and he had fake implants, and from a distance, you're like looking at tits, and you're like, I can't believe that's a man with tits.
Right. I mean, if you see the tits, you're like, wow, those are tits. But then you're like, wow, it's attached to a man. And you think, that's freaky and gay. And that's weird. I just looked at this man's gay boobs.
I don't think it should be illegal, though. I think if a man wants to have implants and be naked at the beach, he's got to wear a bottom.
No, it's totally fine. I just wish that the person would have disclosed to me the truth. And I would have said, I wish you well. Let's continue to smoke a joint. Tell me about your surgery. I'd like to get to know you, but I'm no longer interested in a sexual encounter. That's all that it is. And I don't think that you should do it to an 8-year-old. And I don't think they should be on the sports teams with the other girls.
Yeah.
And I think that all of them should be in prison.
So I can live stream another room and see what else there is.
I'm down. I'm going to get the Chinese food, and then I'm going to get gas, and then I'm probably going to be home.
Yeah, they're kufar, yeah. Muslim Brotherhood or kufar, and
That's cynic.
We can, whatever the enemy is doing.
Yeah, Iran is kufar, Hamas is kufar, Muslim Brotherhood are disbelievers.
Who told you that? Who told you that?
My scholar from Saudi Arabia.
Not even the
He's trolling, bro.
Yeah, they literally hold to that. They take Muslim Brotherhood. They call them a Khariji organization.
No, he does this on purpose to center himself in a room. Otherwise, no one actually wants to talk to him because he's a fucking idiot. He has nothing of substance to say. So he's one of those people that will just say whatever's the opposite of the forte of the stage and will fucking just to get him sent.
Inshallah, Allahu Akbar, 500,000 Gazans to Egypt just to start. Great news, Israel Times publishing the big news, 500,000 from Gaza going straight to Egypt. Bye-bye! That's just the start, 500,000!
Do you have receipts?
Posting it in the chat as we speak. Please hold.
Stop screaming, but yeah.
Yeah, just stop screaming, bro.
Let me tell you what he's talking about. A Lebanese newspaper wrote an article claiming that Sisi prepared a city for 500,000 Palestinians in Sinai. 6 hours later, the Egyptian government came out and said it's all fucking bullshit. So I don't know what your evidence.
Yes, he did. I can confirm it right now.
Who got stronger evidence?
Let's just see his evidence. Let's just see.
I know his evidence.
Yeah, as Times of Israel reported it, then the Egyptian state, what's the agency called?
They held a meeting. 10 of the biggest Arab influencers in the world.
Okay, doctor, we're actually trying to have an actual conversation. So if you're going to do your stupidity, respectfully, do it in the fucking audience. Because it's disruptive. So just don't be disruptive.
Look at the photo in the Israeli Times.
Okay, bye. Don't be disruptive. Read the room, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that the Egyptian Ministry of Information came out within hours saying that the story was not true and they did not agree on anything like that. Or I think they even said they've never even discussed it. Supposedly, it was, I don't know. It's a weird story.
Sons of God appeared before God, and the devil came walking amongst them. So when the devil appeared, he was a flame.
Zach, honestly, I hate these.
God is after the devil. How come the devil is there?
Honestly, black people are at the same time the funniest people on the planet, but also the worst people on the planet. I don't know if that makes any sense. Hello, I have come to join the coexistence.
Very peaceful of you.
I just came from a room where I was kicked because I cited the Israeli Times article about the 500,000 going back to Egypt.
How dare you mention those back?
Edward said that it's all fake. Prince said it's all fake.
All fake. All fake. He's an unusually short man, and I tease him about it mercilessly.
Who, Dr. Prince?
Yes.
What is he, about 4'10"?
He's in that ballpark.
Prince
Yes,
is
I
short?
know Aziz is a Pakistani. That's obvious. In Birmingham or Bradford, the worst cities in the UK because of the Pakistan. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that everybody's concerned about this, but we're not there yet.
Thank you, Norman Foster. There's a guy in the audience who took the name Norman. Oh, he left already. Norman. Oh, there he is. Norman Foster. It's his clubhouse. Oh, he's a newcomer. And he took the name of a noted British architect.
Himself in a room, otherwise no one actually wants to
David
talk to
Durkin.
him.
Have you been there, Doctor? What's the Doctor? Have you seen the
man who looked like the intelligence
London
accumulates over time.
It's not beautiful, but it's distinctive and it's
Spinning, and then you can have like a closing.
Well, coming out of
circle.
COVID, London is a lot cooler than New York. New York is back down.
Well, it says there's not a spec. It doesn't have a place in the whole. I don't think it hurts.
But a better vibe. The British are tougher, I think, than the Americans.
You think the British are tougher than the Americans?
Yeah, forgives me. I kind of do. You served in the army, right? Or the or military, anyway.
Yeah, army.
So I was in Tomislavgrad during the Bosnia War with the Brits, which is on top of a snowy mountain, for the record. And oh man, their army base was so cool. They just, I don't know. There's something about the way they fight that I think is very matter of fact, and they don't complain. No smoke intended for you, but they're really great warriors, I think. And like they used to, they had that bombing in their history, the London Underground, during the what do they call it, the aerial attack on London.
The Blitz.
Depicted. Well, it wasn't really I guess it was, but they didn't really blitz them because I thought the blitz was with tanks and stuff. But there's a movie about it called Hope and Glory. I forget the director. He's a well-known one. You can look it up for you. It's a good film about growing up during the London Blitz.
Yeah. They're amazing people, no doubt. I mean, unbelievable that the U.S. ended up in Afghanistan even after knowing the history of what the British went through there.
Can you imagine? It's like, what do they call it again? That's where, like, empires go to die. Or something they said about Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Where empires go to die.
I mean, nobody knows the names of those soldiers who died at that gate in Afghanistan as they were getting out in that last C-130. I mean, all these thousands of people dead, 10,000 in Iraq, or even the 2 million over there. I mean, what has gone on for 20 years, I don't know. I think coexistence has a chance, but terrorism is always going to be the zit that just won't go away. It keeps coming up.
There's a really brilliant Israeli woman who also knows a lot about Russia. Anna, I think her last name is Gavshine, and she draws a direct link between Bolshevik terrorism and Palestinian terrorism, and all of the terror in the West since the Bolsheviks started. I don't know why you say I have a problem, Aziz. You're a Pakistani living in the West, and more power to you. I don't know why you think you have anything whatsoever to say about Israel. It's peculiar to be gentle about it.
I was talking to Norman, not Norm, but okay.
Aziz, you speak with such eloquence. When I hear you defend the rights of the Palestinian people, it's as if you are inspired by higher intelligence because, sir, you know the subject matter so well and you spend so much time digging into the facts and letting us all know exactly the way that we should be feeling because you're on the side of justice, the side of good intentions and rightfulness. Isn't that so, Dr. Aziz?
Well, I prefer a more reductive approach. I don't like to kill them with statistics, but I respect your opinion,
I am being completely facetious. I hope I was eloquent. I am complete.
Don't worry, I picked up on that. We have a dark humor in Britain. We're much much more subtle than you could ever be. Much more nuanced.
Dr. Aziz, I just want to challenge you, Dr.
I
Aziz.
love the fact that suddenly Aziz is British. I love this. All of a sudden, you're a subtle British. Let me tell you something, Aziz. Brits know how to speak English. So, the first step for you.
Languages. I'm only speaking
English. I'm demonstrating. I don't think he speaks other languages. And you definitely don't speak English. No, I don't think you do, actually. But you know what you don't speak? You don't speak English. That's going to get in your way. I'm telling you, it's going to hold you back. You should practice with that.
Well, Norm, you're speaking English because you speak English. I'm speaking English because you speak English. That's the difference. You know,
I don't follow you.
You don't have a choice. You know,
I do have a choice. I don't speak Urdu because, after all, why would I? But I do speak other languages. But again, you're speaking English because you're living in England. You're an immigrant there who failed to pick up the concept.
No, I didn't actually migrate there.
You failed to pick up the language. I can ask you a simple question, like where does your moral code come from? You can't answer it. I dare say you can't answer a question at all. You don't understand how the language works.
I didn't migrate here.
You get 2 plus. You get. Mazel tov to you. You get 2 plus 2 equals 6. So if you're born in Britain and Britain is an ally of Israel, why are you a traitor to your own country?
God.
What happened to you? You radicalized?
No, not quite.
What happened to you?
You know, I just believe in peace, you know. I don't know why that's controversial.
If you believe in peace, why would you support the terror of the Palestinians?
I don't support the terror. I don't support any terror.
You do. No, seems like you do.
You never took the time to ask me what.
Dr. Norman, he denounced Hamas today.
I've asked you many times. You're afraid to say it.
He denounced Hamas. He denounces them, Dr. Normo.
Yeah, I denounce all terrorist activity.
You see, he's against violence. That's beautiful. That's a big breakthrough moment. But, or however, I'm sure it's coming.
I suspect that he's developing his objective moral code.
No, I'm a pacifist. You know, I believe in self-defense.
Are you?
I am.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, a pacifist.
Here. Let's see how you can answer a question. Do you believe that the Jewish state has a right to exist?
I believe the inception of the state.
Yes or no?
No, I'm asking the question.
No. You see how we can answer a question?
Every state.
I'm telling you. Start with the yes or a no. So without exception, does the Jewish state have a right to exist? Make it easy for you. It exists. Is there any other country that people say?
Do I want it to not exist? Like would I?
No,
I don't want it to not exist.
Okay, listen again. This is words. This is English. This is one of those languages that you think you speak. Try again. Yes or no? Does the Jewish state have a right to exist?
Yes.
Very good.
Wow. He said yes. Can you believe it, Dr. Normo? He said yes. We've got the truth. We've got the truth now, finally.
But I have
No buts or howevers, mate. You've admitted that Israel absolutely is a Jewish state and has the right to Jewish supremacy and Jewish destiny.
We're more nuanced on this side of the ocean, you know. So there's a bit more.
You're more nuanced with your eloquence.
We're a complex.
Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying.
The Americans, you know, you're a simple folk.
Yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, blah, blah, blah. I am complete.
It's always been words, right? You know?
So, now that Israel has the right to exist, does it have the right to defend itself?
Within reason, of course, like anybody does, of course.
Yes or no?
Within reason, you know. I mean, you know, just as
no. It's a yes or a no.
You know, like I said, we are more nuanced than the Americans, you know. Simplicity.
They're so nuanced, these people.
They're not that nuanced.
Yeah.
Evasion is not nuanced.
Nuance is the flavor of life.
It must be nuanced for you because you just learned the fucking language, mate.
Contrary to popular belief, I'm an incredibly eloquent individual, you know, with an extensive vocabulary, incredibly articulate. I'm able to express myself.
What are you able to do? I don't think you are, though.
I mean, given the time, you know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to answer a yes or no question.
Well, you know, speaking to the Americans, I do have to dumb myself down a little.
I don't think you could dumb yourself down any further than you already are.
I know.
I think it would be impossible.
And I'm still to the Americans. And even still, the Americans are, you know, dumbfounded. Unusual. Well, unusual.
Aziz, I suggest you go read a book tonight. Hit the gym, take a long walk around your neighborhood, and do some self-reflection on just how stupid you really are, mate.
You know, I think I'm stupid as well, you know. They say the master is the man who is the student the longest, you know. So I consider myself an idiot, you know. So, you know, I agree with you. How about that for a profound statement?
I tuned out.
Well, if that's true, Dr. Aziz, you're going to make a perfect politician in your society, because clearly your government is a bunch of fucking morons, mate.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree with that. You know, I think we can definitely do a better job. But, I mean, maybe it's difficult. I don't see many politicians doing a great job. Maybe it's just a difficult job, you know. I'm giving them benefit of the doubt. I just haven't seen any great examples, you know, so.
Okay, you want to touch a question, Aziz?
Wait, hold on one sec, Dr. Nomo. You do realize, Aziz, that if you want to improve the world, mate, you got to improve yourself.
I agree.
Now, here's a tougher question. And it's a yes or no. Do you know what genocide is?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You do? Okay, brilliant. Okay. And do you know who invented the term?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Who was it?
Are you talking about a person? Or are you talking about who coined the term?
Oh boy, here we go again. Yes or no?
There's a man called Lemkin.
Googling. What was his first name?
I don't know his first name.
And who was he?
He was I haven't read his book. I believe he was, I believe he was a Polish Jewish man. I haven't read his book.
Very good. And when he invented it, what was he referring to?
He was referencing, his.
He wasn't referencing. He was referring. It's a different word. This is English, by the way. What was he referring to?
Well, his reference point was the Holocaust.
There wasn't a reference point. He was describing the genocide of the Jews. That was the genocide of which we speak. It was
the Holocaust. The Holocaust.
Well, there's more details. So there was a guy named Hitler, right? And he said he was going to Jews.
Paradise and the Shadow. Many of us remember the expulsions of Paradise.
I don't want you to get off track because I know you struggle with this. Okay. So
according to Dolly, number 17, the star of meditation in Hebrew tried by fighters, the meditation on none.
And then he put them in ghettos.
Do you consider that a genocide?
Hang on. Well, we haven't finished. You see, you're a little bit too quick on. You must be very young for that kind of thing.
He's jumpy.
Then he created these things called death camps. Work camps, death camps. Great book.
This isn't just a history lesson. This is an English lesson for Dr. Aziz.
That's true. You're right.
I'm learning so much.
I think you are.
Yeah, this is technically re-nuanced.
So then he took the men and the women and the children and he put them on trains.
I'm aware.
And then those trains went to the work camps and the death camps, and then he worked them to death.
What did you learn, like, in the 6 hours?
Are we calling it
communication hypnosis?
You know, you don't kill them all, right?
You know, befriending the head, befriending him, that, yelling at him.
Dedicated himself to wiping out the Jews of Europe.
And, accusing them, and at the same time,
world as well.
It's understandable that he could do something like this.
Collaborate.
Meanwhile, we do, some money.
And tried to
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't also have like an alibi, right? He's like, sir, I was at the fucking bus stop on my way to work, trying to pay down my credit card bills. I'm not a murderer, sir. He didn't say that though, did he? He just sat there and said nothing. He said nothing. Sir, you got the wrong guy. I'm an innocent man. I'm an outstanding citizen. I was my Boy Scout captain in my 8th grade class. I was all varsity athlete. I had straight A's and I went to undergrad and finished up at University of Chicago grad school. And now I work at Google as a data scientist. You got the wrong guy, sir.
I don't want to get on that.
It wasn't me.
When it comes to the Palestinian folks, their population has.
So you never heard back from your landlord, huh? You hypnotized his ass.
We're not talking about since. During the period that some people want to call a genocide, the population of the Palestinian folks has quadrupled. No such thing as a death camp. No such thing as an effort to Palestinian folks and put them in concentrating camps or anything like that.
Right, because of the work Is that the metric? Is that
don't
Yeah, don't interrupt. Be calm. Relax.
God, I can kill 3 people today and be genocide.
The lovers, paradise, and the shadows.
I would be genocidal if my intent.
interrupt so much, because you're gonna learn less.
With a stolen base, is second of the game already. I'm a 60-60 show, hey? For religious-minded people, this card refers to
You're still trying.
Nobody said they wanted.
Doesn't mean you're not
practical advice, destruction of the Dolly Terror, major.
It doesn't mean you're not an NFL.
Nobody does this on purpose to center himself in a
Like Iggy Pop. So, the intelligence that accumulating and, it's sunrise, sunset. You wake up and you.
And you have an ethnic
The lovers,
that's flourishing, that's middle class, that lives better, in fact, than that ethnic
of the tree of divine affection.
It's a very far-fetched thing to say that there was a genocide going on with other people, right? Kind of the opposite. Free healthcare, schooling, they're participating in the life of the country. Hard to call it a genocide.
Sounds to me like civilized government.
Democracy. What do you think, Aziz?
Well, that's like saying,
Is it too nuanced for you, Dr. Aziz?
I'll explain.
It's nuanced!
Yeah. Now, I don't want you to make an analogy. I want you to deal with the facts.
I'm going to deal with the facts. I like abstract thought, it helps us understand things.
In this case, I think we should start with the facts and then we can do the other.
Okay, we'll start with the fact that, so the fact is the population has not decreased. Is that what we're dealing with over the 75-year period?
No, the population has quadrupled.
Quadrupled, okay, so and then that would essentially be the justification that it isn't a genocide because the population has increased, right? Is that what we're saying? Just for clarification.
It's one of many factors. If
again, it's not a justification.
Give me another
It's called evidence.
Give me another fact, though.
The fact that, for example, this ethnic group has been integrated fully into the life of the nation and participates in all ads. Free health.
Like the Native Americans in America.
Go slow. Well, no analogies. Let's deal with the facts.
Well, it's parallel. It's not an analogy.
No, I don't think it does parallel. No, I don't think it does parallel. No, by the way,
Just stop interrupting, Aussies. This is too nuanced for you. Just be patient. Listen.
Watching in real time is a mind being short-circuited. And that's why they interrupted. So you want to be shocked, Aziz? The Native Americans recognize Jewish indigeneity in Israel. Did you know that? It's an amazing.
Are they a monolith?
That's beautiful, Dr. Nomo, and quite nuanced. Can you explain the nuance to him of that? I don't even think he listened to you or heard what you said.
Where did you get that?
Ironically, it's not an opinion, it's a fact.
So
Ironically, Aziz, the bad analogy that you picked, in fact, contradicts the main point that you're avoiding. Well, let's go back to the main point. So, do you think Israel has the ability to wipe out some ethnic group? Let's not say who it is. Does Israel have that ability?
I believe so, yeah.
I believe so too. And yet, Israel does everything it can to avoid doing precisely that. Did you hear, by the way, that there were 1,000 humanitarian aid workers in Gaza every day during this war? Not a lot of people know, but I did.
Well, apart from the areas where they blocked
Well, how long were those periods?
I mean, 1,000 trucks. Consider
1,000 trucks a day. So do you think if you were committing genocide, you'd send 1,000 trucks a day?
And then that will essentially be the justification that it isn't a genocide because the population has increased. So something the same, just for clarification.
One of many factors. If it's not a justification,
Give me another one.
Israel have just carpet bombed this area that we're not naming?
Yeah, UN creating like a international justice system. Yeah, probably, yeah.
Could have done it all.
Yeah, maybe like pre-World War II, like pre-World War I, yeah, less.
Dr. Nomo, I hate to interrupt you and Dr. Aziz, but Shabbos is here. I must be on my way, and God bless you all. May peace, happiness, stillness, and joy enter all of your hearts and minds tonight. God bless all. Take care. Ta-ta!
Take care. Shabbat shalom. For example, did you know that the United States carpet bombed Iraq?
Yes. Yeah, 1 million innocent civilians actually died.
We don't know exactly.
No, I think that's an underestimation.
But was that a genocide?
Well, that one, we have to look into. I mean, I think it was indiscriminate.
Yes or no?
It was not a genocide to answer your question, Norm. But I would like to remind you that Israel did annihilate an entire way of life for Palestinians living in Gaza, meaning that the entire society has been deemed uninhabitable. Like the entire Gaza has been deemed uninhabitable, and so that also plays into the term of genocide, including the fact that when we're
of life is what we're talking about there. But again, this is what happens in a war that Israel didn't shoot, a war that Hamas started, and a war that could have been ended at any minute with a phone call. You can't. There's no such thing as a genocide you could end with a phone call.
I think wars are usually between typically sovereign nations or real.
Wait, Dr. El-Noma, I just wanted to remind you to make sure you let them know about the nuance of the whole entire your evidence and your point. It's very nuanced, Dr. Noam, and I don't know if Aussies understands how nuanced it really is.
What? What do you say?
Sorry, he's a bit slow. So he's just catching up.
No, he's not very slow. Let me read you the definition of war, just so you understand. War is an armed conflict between the armed forces of states, governmental forces, and armed groups that are organized under a certain command structure. Is that what's happening right now?
such organized groups. It is generally characterized by widespread violence, destruction, and mortality using regular or irregular military forces. So now we have a working definition of war. Hard to deny that that's what's going on.
Yeah, but that's. I'm sorry.
I don't want to be unkind to you, by the way, Madge. So I don't want to be indelicate or anything. What were you going to say, Ahmed?
No, I was going to say something, but if you were going to continue, go ahead.
Well, people like to warp words, and then it becomes difficult to communicate. And by the way, if you can't communicate, you can't build a society, and you can't get along. If you say blue and you really mean red, then we're never going to be able to work things out. But go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay, so would you say that what's happening in Gaza and what happened in Iraq are wars?
Of course, by definition.
So that's great. Don't you know that there are rules for wars?
There kind of are, and there kind of aren't.
Okay. I mean, definitions also are kind of aren't as well, because they don't always stick.
I don't agree with that. I mean, war, it's very clear what a war is. So, let me give you an example. If you have a war between two sides, and one side is playing by one set of rules of war, and the other side is playing by a different set of rules of war, then are there any more rules?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's the thing. There's only two types. The one that the United Nations came up with, rules of war.
Yeah.
So there's one type where it follows the guidelines that the United Nations set. I mean, let's forget the Islamic rules of war, the big modern day secular stuff.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. So what's it called?
Because the Torah has some rules of war too, but we weren't talking about those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just into theology a lot these days, so it's come up a lot for me. But so we have the UN rules of war, and then we have anything else.
Okay.
And those are the only two that matter, because if anything deviates from the UN rules of war, then it's considered.
Dr. Ahmed, I think you might have a listening problem. Did you hear El Normo read the definition of war? It's regular and irregular. There's no room of debate here. If we've already defined the term, let's move on into coexistence, please.
You ever hear the term bringing a gun to a knife fight?
I don't know what he's. Wait, let me just clear this up. I thought you were talking about rules of war, and I was going to say that because you mentioned that one side's fighting with different rules of war, and one side isn't. I was going to say that it doesn't matter what rules you may claim Hamas is fighting with. The Israel still has to adhere by the United Nations rules of war. Otherwise, they are also deviant as well as Hamas, and both should be held to account. But if Israel holds to the United Nations. This is the last point, sorry. But if Israel does hold to it, then they are faultless, and then they are in that situation infallible.
I don't know about faultlessness and infallibility.
Look, shit got me tripping. Fighting with my demons, and my demons is when I feel like nobody ever.
Have a look at Tohar. I may have heard this, but
look, shit got me tripping. Fighting with my demons, and my demons is when I feel like nobody ever.
West Point. Spencer, who teaches urban warfare, and he has repeatedly pointed out that Israel is conducting a military campaign unprecedented in its respect for humanitarian protection. That's his position. So again, it's a little bit difficult to conduct an asymmetrical war where your enemy is not wearing uniforms, which is obviously a war crime. It's hiding itself in civilian dwellings. That's a war crime. Hiding itself in mosques or churches and hospitals. That's a war crime. It is firing indiscriminately.
You know what makes me feel pain?
My favorite way to sell real estate.
So, on the one hand, you have the superior military force attempting to abide.
My favorite way to sell real estate. My favorite.
The Rome Conference.
Being a firefighter, there is definitely.
was never indiscriminate bombing. The bombing was always done with military aims, to the extent that's possible.
Can I butt in here?
Yeah, please do.
So I don't think any reputable person who's pro-Palestinian argues that Israel's firing indiscriminately. Well,
It has been said that there's indiscriminate bombing. It's a term that's used quite a bit.
I know, but no one gives a shit what half the people have to say because half the people are dumb, right? Let's be real here. What the real people are arguing here is that
Okay, sounds good.
what's it called? That Israel is putting less emphasis on the civilian population that could be affected by each strike. So, for example, I heard this before. Let's say they wouldn't go if there was a ratio of 1 target versus 5 civilians. They wouldn't touch them. Anything under that,
You're exactly right on this. They upped it to 20, 1 to 20. Right?
Okay, that's fair. But the level of destruction, let's say it's 1 to 20, then you would have to equate that with the level of destruction that's been in Gaza. And I'm like, I always hear a lot of Zionists argue about the numbers. Okay, I can't prove the numbers any more than you can prove the numbers. But what we can prove is the leveling of Gaza.
Yes, that's one of the goals of war, isn't it? To destroy the enemy.
No, that's a
Wait, is it inhumane to win the war?
No, it's inhumane to level a different what's it called, to wipe civilization off the map. That's
What is wiping a civilization off the map?
We're
attacking them.
No,
the enemy is hiding in the buildings.
I know, but have you ever heard of hand-to-hand? Have you ever heard brigade against brigade, battalion against battalion? Not missiles sent down.
Israel does that. Well, they don't have the brigades or battalions. They hide behind their women and children. You know what the classic example is here? You go into a building and somebody's firing from the window. You look in room 1 and there's women and children. You look in room 2 and there's more children. You look in room 3 and now the person has moved from the first room to the third room. There's somebody who's still firing from in there while there's women and children around him. And then somebody put a gun into the hand of a 12-year-old. That's a classic scenario that the IDF is facing.
So here's the thing. What you just described is exactly what guerrilla warfare is. When people are backed into a corner and they cannot structure themselves because they're facing a superpower that could annihilate them if they organized in the open. It would immediately get annihilated. So this is called guerrilla warfare.
So it's a suicide mission.
No, it's called guerrilla.
You're committing suicide.
Yeah,
I mean, if you take a guerrilla force against a vastly superior military force, it's only a matter of time before you're destroyed. Even if you hide with the women and children. I mean, what would you like Israel to do? Say, you know what, you guys, I guess because you're hiding behind the women and children, we'll let you have it. Because Israel's done that for decades, by the way, with Gaza.
No, sorry,
Shapes of it as they come.
I was gonna say, I don't know what Israel should do right now because Israel has been a political snowball rolling since 1948, and to say Israel should just stop and think of what it should do next is a ridiculous suggestion because it's been a snowball since 1948. Like slowly.
I don't understand that statement.
Like for example, what I'm saying is it's knee deep in water. To ask it to get out.
What's the water?
The water is enmity with the surrounding area. For example, because
not the surrounding area.
It's
one group of people. Yeah, it's the Arabs of the region who lived in that thing which we're calling Palestine.
Who are considered brothers by you realize Jordan is 50% descended from Palestine. Lebanon.
I heard it was more.
Yeah, because a lot of them immigrated there after 1948.
Well, maybe they're indigenous to there.
Oh, brother, come on, man! Don't say that.
Why not say that?
You're really going to go into the definition of that there is no Palestinian and all that?
I didn't say that.
Well, when you question something like that, it indicates you want to go down that path.
I question something like what?
The identity of Palestinians. When you bring
Jordan is an artificial construction. It includes. Okay, so it also includes some of what I think people were trying to argue once upon a time was quote unquote Palestinian land, whatever that is.
maybe a small vocal minority about this. But here's the thing. Once again, you shouldn't give much of a shit about what half the knuckleheads in the world have to say. You should care about what the intellectual minority has to say about these things. I don't think if you knock some sense into any Palestinian out there, they couldn't care less whether the land was called Israel or Palestine. All they care for is to be treated well, so they can keep you know what I mean? So they can go to school and marry their loved one.
Hello?
And they do that in Israel, don't they?
They do.
They do, right?
They sure do.
Isn't this what everybody always wanted for them? Most of all.
Doesn't everybody want the same thing?
That's great, but what about the West Bank? They're under military law. They don't get treated.
Okay, all right.
The sweet.
Let's talk about the West Bank a little bit. So, 1948. What happens when you call it? We call it Judea and Samaria. What happens in 1948?
What's the chat say?
What's it called?
It's like that
There's a
one
big
thing.
scare of Zionist militias going around
Thought
terrorizing
you were
towns.
done with Clubhouse, you
A
turned,
lot
you
of
addicted man, this is the drug team, it's like
because they
practically.
heard of the horrors that happened in other towns, and so they moved.
I imagine that's part of the story. I mean, I was thinking of May 14th, 1948, Israel declares independence.
From
right? Independence from Britain, independence from
that makes sense.
Arab domination, independence. We declare a state.
Okay.
People always say from them. So the Brits left the day before, by the way. So, and on May 15th, what happened? A lot of you don't know.
No, I'm not familiar with the exact dates. No.
The Arab-Israeli War.
That happened the day right after.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So 5 Arab armies attacked 5 countries: Syria, Iraq, Saudi, Lebanon, Jordan. There were also a Pakistani militia. Where's our friend Aziz? And a Palestinian militia. So 7 armies altogether. And they lost, and Jordan took Judea and Samaria. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know that Jordan occupied the West Bank or Judea and Samaria.
Well, it's hard to know if it's an occupation or not, because who else ever owned that land or ran that land or had sovereignty there? The Ottomans, briefly in a mandate, but there was never such a thing as a Palestinian country or anything, or a state or anything like that.
But that's the thing, though. Like, Britannia was the name of the island from which the country of Britain was formed on, but it was called Britannia before there was a country. You know, the same way.
Well, does that mean that it wasn't Britain, right? It was just a region, like the Alps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. So like, you can't bring into question the identity of the people who live there. They're called the Britannians.
We're not talking their identity. We're talking sovereignty. Whose land is it? Not identity. Nobody. You can call people whatever you want. You could call them. You know. In fact, as far as I know, and maybe Mads wants to contribute on this.
Brother Magic looks Palestinian. He looks Palestinian with this.
The people of the Arab folks of that region, they identify with their.
Dr. El Normo, can't we just ask Ahmed, do you want coexistence, Ahmed?
Come on, man. Let's be honest here. You haven't heard my calm voice, and I'm talking to you guys. I'm the coexistent type. Don't ask me that question, man. You should have assumed it.
Really?
He's a little bit. He's playing a character, but I could tell from your voice. I couldn't pick up on it.
Okay,
he's playing a character. It's okay.
Okay.
No,
You got triggered. You got just a little triggered.
But don't trigger him deliberately.
You got a little gaslit. A little.
Hey, brother, go take your what is it called when you have the wine, the first sip of wine?
You want me to make a kiddish?
Take your kadosh. Take your kiddish.
It's not kadosh. It's kiddish.
I'm sorry.
By the way, he's not really. What should I say?
I don't have Down syndrome, as you maybe have led to have been believed.
He's playing a character, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's an entertaining one, and he's funny, and he's a good guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's coming from an unusual place. Like, okay, so no, that's all I was going to say. So the question then arises, whose land is it?
Because like Jordan, sorry, go ahead.
Beg your pardon? Well, there's Jews there, and there's Arabs there. Both.
Yeah, I would say I'm Muslim, but Muslim beliefs aside, the secular belief is a secular democracy of sorts. You know, that's fair, right?
Yeah, we have that in Israel.
Yeah. So why not include the West Bank in that?
Well, I don't know. I think we're heading in that direction. We never really knew what to do with Judea and Samaria. Remember, originally it was supposed to be a Palestinian state, and it's not clear to me why that never happened. I don't get it. I don't know if they ever really wanted it. I guess, like you and I can speculate about it. I imagine you're not an Arab person. You don't sound like one. I'm not trying to judge you, but you said you were a Muslim, so you didn't say you were an Arab. So it seems to me they never wanted a state, or there would be one by now. So they had a lot of opportunities. Huh?
No, I'm Egyptian, by the way.
Okay.
So here's the thing.
Yes.
But they wanted a state.
They didn't feel like they wanted one.
That's the thing. Everyone wants sovereignty over their own life, over their own land. You know what I mean? Want a government they can pay taxes to back themselves, back up the people and stuff. Everyone wants sovereignty, but I mean, I don't know about the history of it. I can't get into the nitty gritty. But I mean, a good question I would have is if Israel does love treating Palestinians correctly, let's go off a whim and admit that for the sake of argument, because I don't know, and I hear varying opinions on this. Why did they instead create a what's it called, the apartheid wall, or I guess the Israelis have a different name for it, but the wall between the West Bank and Israel? Why would they make that wall, and I know it's not effective at all, but to make a statement of separation? Why not?
It is very, very, very effective, and I'm going to give you the exact reason why we created that wall. That wall was created to stop terrorists coming over from Judea and Samaria. It's quite effective. It was built as a response to the invasion.
Wait, when was it made? When was it built?
I want to be accurate about this. I feel like, let's see. I'm going to Google it like you can. When was the separation? It's been quite effective. When was
John Doe, welcome.
Hang on.
Welcome, John Doe.
What's up, bro?
What's going on?
Nothing. I missed Brad getting packed up today. It sucks.
Oh, you want to hear the pack up with Brad?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm addicted. You're addicted.
You're damn right I am, bro.
Damn, you and your girlfriend in Punta Cana. Holy shit. How's that hot piece of ass in Mexico? How's your beautiful girlfriend down south? Down under, man. That love of your life, that girl you've had for 4 years. You fucking love that girl, dog. What a woman. What a woman. She loves you. You're cutting land. You're doing landscaping, supporting this fucking Mexican girlfriend of yours down in Punta Cana. You got your hot girlfriend. Holy shit.
Maybe if I would have sent her some money, she would have been interested. Here's the thing, bro. She lost it. Before the term, she lost it.
Prevent yourself of.
There's limitations. So,
You're that limit. You're that limit.
Yeah.
50 years.
But I have a question. You said, okay, so in response,
the clouds part, when you don't got to worry about that shit. The cloudy skies part away when you ain't got to worry about that. I'm happier without them. So. Let's hear this shit. I want to hear this guy get packed up.
Well, you're going to have to buy me a set of ribs if you want to hear the pack up. I'm charging slabs of ribs now, dog. How many lawns did you cut today? Can you spare some ribs? I know you cut a lot of lawns today. It's spring season.
Oh, shit. We don't have any.
Is that Dr. Sasha in the audience?
We don't cut any grass. I mean, there's some people do, but I do hardscape.
Oh, shit. Dr. Sasha's here.
Dude, cut grass, man. That's where the fucking money's at, bro.
Yeah, cutting grass.
That's how my boss made all his
No
money.
overhead, dude. No overhead. One team.
No
boss,
overhead.
schedule, fucking no, not a lot of overhead. You just have a well, I mean, put in 25 grand, and then just through charisma soak up all the contracts to a fucking
Charisma contracts. That's my favorite advice. Charisma
No,
contracts.
seriously. Well, I mean, if you don't have it, if you can't sell, you can do free work.
You're right, though, man. That's how my landscaping company I work for is, that's how they made all the money. So, and they're like millionaires.
Anyways, Taro has this low dopamine, so he's getting bored. So we got to be exciting. Let's dance in the pool.
I just want to quote Monica from earlier today when she said, "Get down on your knees."
Who said that?
Monica.
I actually really like Monica. I like her.
She's so
I
crazy.
can't stand that shit. I used to stick up for her. I stopped doing that.
But I love it. You can't be in a space with Monica for more than 20, 30 minutes at a time. And that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. She's not gonna be your best friend, but she can and she messes around, in a very faux oh, I'm such a virtuous lady. But
I know she's full of shit.
But I don't know. There's something I find something very endearing about her. I don't know what it is.
This is what drives me nuts about her is that she's got Stockholm syndrome. People that treat her the worst on this app, she defends like Brad. Brad treats her like dog trash.
Oh no, she doesn't like that at all.
Well, no, dude, she does. Trust me, because when I doxed him because he was talking about raping my little kid and my sister and threatening to kill me, so I was like, it wasn't even doxing him. He has all his information already public on X and it's all linked. So I was just trying to fight him, and they tried to say that I doxed him, and he played the victim. And Monica came to his defense. Oh, that's dangerous. That's wrong. Yeah, I know. That's the point. I want to find him and fight him because he thinks that it's okay to talk about raping children and raping women and stuff. And he's horrible when he gets mad.
Maybe.
And she just sticks up for him. That's crazy.
Look, I don't put it past myself, and I'm sure John, if that's their real name, doesn't, to embody a lot of different characters, just because it's exciting to do so. So maybe that's an explanation. And I'm more psychologist Sasha than Dr. Sasha Tara, John. So get your.
Listen, like you said earlier, you're boring me. We need to speed this up a little bit. Get the dopamine moving.
I'll follow your lead.
I'm trying to bring drama. I'm trying to do whatever, dude. What else?
Dr. John, first of all, you have a pink ticket. Cash that in, and then go to your friend invite list, share it with people, and invite the room. I'm getting ready to play the top roast of the week.
Well, hold on a minute, man. I'm shopping right now. I can't even stop right now.
Holy shit! I'm the guy you call like Dr. Sasha when he's in the car. He's like, oh, I gotta talk to somebody. Maybe I'll go on Clown House and talk to Edmund.
Dude, you do the same shit. Okay?
I don't have to command him, and if I did, you know exactly how it'd end up. He would be going home in a body bag with a flag draped coffin, and people could have their tears, but nonetheless, he wouldn't be walking this earth because he served under me. He would definitely have, quote, an accident, end quote. And that would be very, very well assured. And I don't really fucking care that this motherfucker has an opinion one way or the other. I don't need it. And if he really needs validation from other people, because I know he loves sucking your dick, and I know he loves swallowing that all the way whole. You don't even have to tap him. Look at how good you got it. He has to have some sort of male validation. And I've never met a fucking punk, wannabe Christian, fucking Mormon creep like this need and crave that shit so much in my entire life. This is literally the definition. His uncle's like probably sharing him around to end up on a fucking crime show. I promise you.
Is he talking about you, Dr. John? Or is he talking about Dr. Keegan? I can't tell. Who's he talking about there?
Shut the fuck up. He's talking about Keegan, man. I mean, he does this every time.
Nah, he's talking about Mormons in general. You're all like inbred triple cousins, double cousins. It's you guys.
Well, I'm not.
What's your IQ, Dr. John? How many times does it take you to cut the lawn?
A lot. Just so much.
So, how did you think you were going to start a boat manufacturing business when you can't even cut the lawn in one fucking follow swoop, one time through? I know your family, your friends, your girlfriend, everybody got so upset with you because you were buying all these tools and investing in the boat manufacturing industry, but you weren't investing in yourself. And thus, welcome to Top Roasts of the Week, starring our new roast participants, Dr. John and Dr. Sasha. This is your Friday evening dinner for schmucks. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Low IQ Dumb People who talk about nothing and waste all their time. Welcome back to my show here in Chicago, where I will be featuring two new participants, two real dumb motherfuckers who waste all their fucking time, Dr. John and Dr. Sasha. Welcome back to the show, Dr. John and Dr. Sasha.
Yes, this is a new show. It's called Reversing the Dumbass Motherfuckers That Waste All the Time on Clubhouse, starring Taro Edmund John, straight from Chicago, right up your ass, motherfucker.
The guy who sits here all day on Clubhouse. It's crazy, dude. What is with your compensating projection, bro?
I think it's great.
I think you guys should be really cautious about that. And again, you're talking about my behavior. You got one whose wife is going to Africa to get gangbanged. You have another one who's chasing the fat fucking Muslim girl named Abiyaba all around the app, and she's acting like this. And his wife is fucking leaving him. These guys, you want all...
Okay, hold on, gentlemen. I'm going to give you your first roast clip of the week. I give you Brad versus Diogenes and Keegan.
But yeah, I know where both of these guys live. You guys should be really cautious about that. And again, you're talking about my behavior. You got one whose wife is going to Africa to get gangbanged. You have another one who's chasing the fat fucking Muslim girl named Abiyaba all around the app, and she's acting like this. And his wife is fucking leaving him. These guys, you want all of this fucking drama? You want all your personal lives going up there? And Diogenes, that cow of a wife fucking being brought up, she's the size of Monica. It might as well be Monica. You can bring them all up our stage, Dave. We can have this like brag battles them all at once or goes wrong. They still can't win. They haven't won in 4 years. This is the same group that has tried, and they need validation. And that I'm the football team that and again, who really pays attention to what is this goat herder fucking you? Who gives a fuck what the goat slut wants to say? Like this camel cum guzzler can't fucking say shit. And again, they don't. You'll see them on Netflix soon enough. But yeah.
Damn, Brad packing them up. That was our first pack up of the night. We've got others. We're going to get to Jazzy, Diogenes. Welcome back, Dr. John, Dr. Sasha, to another exciting episode of my little podcast that I like to call Low IQ Dumb People Who Talk About Nothing and Waste All Their Time.
That's you. You live on this app, bro, and you record people's conversations. That's the lamest shit ever.
Welcome, Dr. Sasha. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Dr. Sasha.
Everything is a projection.
I am a father, and I got to do my work, but I will be with you in less than 7 minutes.
You see, Dr. John, how that works? You just projected onto me exactly what you do, but I don't think I do what you do. But I also know I don't have a kid like Dr. Sasha. So is everything a projection technically, Dr. John?
Well, I don't record other people's... I don't care. Like, I don't care enough. I have live conversations with people, and I don't care. It's just about conversation. I don't try to get women on here. I just literally have conversations.
I get it. You like to talk.
Well, but you like to? What do you like to do? Nothing.
What do you mean? I like to record people talking.
Which is strange to me.
Well,
Why?
things are strange in the real world. Did you know how strange life is? Have you ever met a rhinoceros?
Well, it's just strange to me.
Have you ever met a giraffe?
Listen to your stuff.
Have you ever met a crow you didn't like? Hello?
Someone's gonna.
Life is strange, Dr. John. It's called art. I know you cut lawns, so you understand artwork. The point is, Dr. John, when you're cutting a lawn with a trimmer or a hedger or a mower, when you see the diagonal patterns on the lawn crisscross, and you say to yourself, that geometrical shape is beautiful, you might say to yourself, I don't know, am I creating art on this lawn, or is this art creating something in me as the mower, as the clipper? Who are you, Dr. John? Who are you?
Well, I don't know, so first of all.
Well, what do you do when you trim the lawns? How do you do it? With a pair of scissors?
I don't do the lawn mowing. That's other crews. I'm hardscaping, dude.
Oh, you're a hardscaper. So who do you glaze? Who are you glazing?
What do you mean?
Who do you glaze?
I don't know. That's not a term that I'm familiar with.
It's just a joke. Anyways, welcome back to the top roasts of the week. We got a new roast queued up for you that you may have not have heard. We're going to play a new exciting roast for you, hot off the presses of the roast machine. The ultimate barbecue of roasting. Clown House. Is it real? Is it real? You know, the more that I meet people, I'm beginning to think that people are either reincarnations or there's a large group of the population which are technically almost identical. What do you think about that theory?
You might have a point, especially when you get on this app. There's a lot of similar, especially when people get pissed off, upset. I think the green bean phenomenon is definitely the biggest trait where they turn into tyrants and they get jealous and there's a power dynamic over the green bean. I don't give a fuck.
Weed. Therefore, it is.
Yeah, but you don't read books.
I know. I use the internet. I don't need to read books.
You don't.
Digital now.
So what's 100 times 1,000? Quick, give me the answer. Go ahead. What's 100 times 1,000?
I'm not a mathematician, okay?
You don't need to know math to speak English. What is 100 times 1,000? Go ahead. You're gonna be wealthy one day when you figure this one out.
Okay.
What's 100 times 1,000?
100,000. 5 zeros and 1.
What's 100 times 1,000?
100,000. 100,000.
You speak English. We can converse and communicate. Amazing. Wow. You do know multiplication and math. It's just called English, right? It's words. Words. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I don't want to play any more roasts.
Strange characters on this app, dude.
That's right, including yourself, Dr. Boat, Dr. John. When are you going to build your first... Oh, Dr. Don is here, Don. Don, welcome to the Swinger Soiree. I hope you brought your 38 and a martini.
It's gonna be
dry.
Sure and build a boat.
Blue cheese
Sure
olives.
and build a boat. We'll make a boat so your fat ass can hang out in it, okay? How
I'm
about
going to
that?
go to the gym today and work out extra hard on meditate on what you said to me.
I doubt that. Well, you eat ribs and stuff and hang out in Clubhouse.
Are you actually fat?
No, I'm not. I'm a big man, but I'm not fat.
What are you
I
like?
think he is fat.
6'2", 100.
I'm 6'3", 220.
Oh, geez, do you have a lot of muscle?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he doesn't.
Acceptable.
He doesn't.
When I come to Chicago, Edmund, I'm going to meet you.
You're not going to meet me. I'm going to talk to you on Clown House and laugh at you for wanting to meet me. Why would I want to meet you? You don't have a tight pussy and any money.
Because I think we could have interesting conversations. I think that there's
You're about to say something else.
No, it's not. Yeah. Okay, I gotta fucking.
Exactly.
I put my kids. I put my two boys to sleep. I gotta get a little fucked up.
Ooh, come back. The party's just getting started. I'm ordering a pizza.
I ate a pizza today. It was magnificent, but I'm not a fat ass.
I got to place my order for the... Actually, I think I'm going to go to the gym and then place the order for the pizza. I don't know.
Why would anybody go to the gym at like midnight?
Because there's nobody there.
That's what I'm saying. He's...
Oh.
You know that, right? He's full of shit, right? You know that, right? He's definitely... Nah.
Dr. John, listen.
Yes. Yeah, John. Obviously, he's full of shit. That's his thing. That's what makes it exciting.
I'm a bullshit artist. I'm a bullshit artist.
That's why the only one there's only like 10 people in Clubhouse that love him. But that's okay.
I'd say 10, not 11, 10, not 9.
I mean, the fucking roll. Look, if you can't fucking look, this is gonna become a roasted John. John, if you're not open-minded enough to love the roller coaster, you're a fucking normie. Then you're an archetype of another person.
Roast it, cook it, give me some coleslaw and beans. Let's get this show started. Roast.
What you do when you have a little child that's like a year and a half, you fucking throw them into the pool. You just throw them in. Who cares? They'll be able to swim. This is what you need to do to yourself. You need to just jump into the void and swim with us on the same wavelength. And if you can't do that,
roast.
You haven't done anything. You haven't even said nothing, you weirdo. So why don't you shut up?
Dr. John, this is a roast.
Yeah. As you're sitting here working in the background, you're wanting me to... I'm actually conversating with the dude.
You're conversating.
I was gone for like 11 minutes. Okay, maybe it felt like an eternity to you.
While we were talking,
folk.
And I just jumped in.
I helped you with the math answer. Okay, you give me acknowledgement. I helped you with the goddamn math answer. He asked me what 100 times 1,000 is. No, you were like a fucking deer in a headlight. You were a deer in a headlight. You were.
Does that matter? Does that matter?
You fucking stole my answer, but I don't care. I just want you to learn from it. 100 times 1,000. 5 zeros plus a 1. What is it? 100,000.
It doesn't matter.
The area of a certain form of
This is so stupid.
Everybody knows
It's like a clown show.
I did anything in school. Pi. R. What's the last one? Come on, I can't give you all the hints. Square.
Okay, let him finish his checkout at the grocery store. I don't want to hear no beeping. So welcome back to the Top Roast of the Week. This has been Brad versus Keegan and Diogenes. Also, don't cross Monica. She keeps receipts, as well as the Meditation Wisdom Room. John, Robert, Teddy, Ben, Sasha, John, as well as our couple of YouTube viewers and ex-listeners. I can't thank you enough for coming. I knew you were going to come, and I hope you come again.
Please don't come.
Please don't come. So thanks for coming. It's been fun, but alas, I have to be productive. So we're going to listen to some of the week's best clips.
The chances of you seeing this YouTube short are super.
The chances of you coming across this clown house room are so 1 in a trillion.
Faith and logic.
You know, each and every one of you is a precious star, a diamond, a ruby, an emerald.
But yeah, I know where both of these guys live. You guys should be really cautious about that. And again, you're talking about my behavior. You got one whose wife is going to Africa to get gangbanged. You have another one who's chasing the fat fucking Muslim girl named Abba Yaba all around the app, and she's acting like this. And his wife is fucking leaving him. These guys, you want all of this fucking drama? You want all your personal lives going up there? That's not actually true. Why? I don't like you telling about God in the weirdest ways. You talk about Christ. You talk about religion. You talk about I think we should take Leviticus and follow the rules all the way. Follow the
You guys are.
And Brad is the male feminist, right? Brad is the I will defend the hose. And the reason why they do this again is for the hope that these women will then accept him. And it's the same. I mean, it's the same point that a lot of men do on how can we get women to sleep with us. That's the whole idea, right? How can we conquer this woman? And some men go, okay, I'm going to be ultra masculine. I'm showing I'm very masculine. And then some men go, I'll be masculine by defending women and by defending them even if they're being whores and they have whorish behavior. So that's Brad. Brad is the male.
Needs to have my approval for. He's not going to get it. I don't
depress people. There is a very
Going to see and drown himself, and then
I am the balance between victory and foundation. That balance I preserve by ceaseless meditation upon mine own nature. Only because I never forget myself, doth the creation continue. The seeds of existence spring from my self-contemplation. That self-contemplation is a great silence. For not by noise and tumult is my work perfected,